further sleep.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 361st edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host, Steve Wellings, and joining me on the call we have Ozzy Smith, Andy Patterson, Adam Spido Smith, and special guest Dominic Henry as well. Good to have you with us, everybody. Don't forget, we're here live every Sunday evening, 8 o'clock p.m, mixler.com/Boxing Asylum. You can catch us as well on the Patreon feed shortly after. Mondays on YouTube, Soundcloud and iTunes. And if you're looking for the Fury Wilder rematch chat, don't forget to go to patreon.com/Boxing Asylum. Nice 3-hour pod that we put out this morning, going the ins and outs of it, the controversy, the knockdowns, everything that was happening. Good stuff. Yeah, we should be on in a minute, guys. I have pressed the record button. But, you know, we don't want to talk about the big stuff too much on here. Like I said, we've done a Patreon on the Wilder Fury stuff. So let's go around the country. We'll be going on to the Golden Contract shortly. Lucian Reid as well against Brad Foster. You know, this is a grassroots podcast. We like to do things from the ground up. What about the Barnsley Metrodome, Ozzy? I don't know if you were there in attendance. I'm sure it was live on Free Sports TV. Josh Wale going in against Idi Kayumba in the main event. Cash Ali against Kamin Sokonowski. Bit of female action as well. Cheyenne Hansen, unfortunately, not getting her win. Perry Howe, he might be 0-0-1, but we like to talk about people like that on this podcast. Keenan Wainwright as well. Sufyan Ahmed. Plenty to get stuck in there in the old Metrodome. Starting with Josh Wale. Ozzy, do you think he's going to be any closer to a world title shot after this amazing win over Idi Kayumba?
Massively. I think going into the fight, it was certainly a 50-50. Idi Kayumba, he showed qualities against Prince Patel, and on another day, he probably would have beaten Prince Patel, but Josh Wale, he really stepped up to the mark, headlining back at the Metrodome on the Dennis Hobson show, and he really rose to the occasion. Idi Kayumba was no match for him. He was dropped in the second, brutal body shots, and I know there was quite a few wild celebrations at the end when Josh Wale registered the third round win. As for Cash Ali, Kamil Sokolowski proved a nuisance again, and Ali was fortunate to get a points win. And the German Cheyenne Hansen was jobbed on the cards by referee John Latham against the well-known 9-23-5 Gabrielle Meze. So Cheyenne Hansen lost her undefeated record to Meze, got beat 39-38. Perry Howe beat Elvis Doob. As for Sufyan Ahmed, 4-0 prospect, an excellent win over the 3-50-1 Ricky Leach. And Keenan Wainwright, he may have the loss on his card, but he was an impressive performer against Daniel Alder, dropping Alder in the second. So, yeah, really glad we get to dedicate time to these sort of cards. I know we've dedicated time to Fury Wilder. People can get involved with that elsewhere. But tonight's pod is all about, you know, the smaller hole shows from around the world, not just the UK.
Absolutely, Andy. I mean, people are obviously desperate for us to get onto the Golden Contracts, Lucian Reid against Brad Foster, all that type of stuff. But Ozzy picked up on an interesting point there. We love women's boxing here, so why not dedicate a bit of time to this Cheyenne Hansen, 6-0, super featherweight, lost to 9-23-5 Gabrielle Meze. It's not over for Cheyenne, is it? She can come back from that. She can rebuild, Andy. She can regroup.
Absolutely, mate. I mean, the only way is up after a defeat like that to someone with that type of record, 9-23-5. You know, Gabrielle Meze. You know, she's been over the coast before. You know, big name in Romanian boxing. I know she's Hungarian by residency and nationality and that, but tough fighter, and she was more than a worthy winner. I think the 39-38 scorecard actually by the referee was pretty abysmal, but it just goes to show that there is depth in women's boxing getting there now these days, so it's good to see.
MB in the chat saying, I'm only here for the updates on the Pat Barrett show. I mean, we'll be there shortly, MB, don't worry. We'll get to the Pat Barrett show. We're not going to forget about that whatsoever. Smido, no doubt you were watching on Free Sports Friday night. Elvis Doob, 84 losses on his record, 41 years of age, from Derby. People like Doob, you know, you have to respect these guys, don't you? 84 losses, and he's still going on the road week in, week out, on TV. Why wouldn't you want to watch people with 84 losses on TV? That's what boxing's all about, Smid.
But great servant to the game, and you know, without the people that are willing to put the work in, week out, on, you know, away from the bright lights of Las Vegas. Without those guys, there would be no boxing. So credit to him.
Absolutely. Right, let's move on then. Tell me more about women's boxing, says Matt Russell. Coming up later in the show, boys. Coming up later. You know what? I was on box.
Over 5 minutes.
I was on BoxRec earlier in the week, and I was looking to update the page where they put the Boxing Asylum templates up, and somebody said, "I don't listen to the Asylum anymore. It's got boring." So I thought we'd spice things up a bit, Andy, and bring them all in. But Ozzy's quite right. Maybe we should move on before we lose any listeners. Indeed, but Barnsley Metrodome.
I don't know, mate. We're doing pretty well there. I actually jumped from 65 to 130 in like 2 minutes. I've managed to snag at least 5 Patreon new subscribers as well. So we're making some cha-ching. We're just doing the hustle, baby. Don't hate us. Just hate the game.
Right, let's move on then, shall we? Yes, I've been sent so many questions, so many comments, so many Bellevue of the Weeks and whatnot, so sorry if I don't get to it all. As you can appreciate, I'm not as on the ball as the new heavyweight king, Tyson Fury, and his team getting their tactics absolutely spot on. A deserved 7th round KO for the new WBC champion. Jed Kleemer said on Facebook earlier he would be tuning in to hear us, not talking about Josh Whale, but to hear some of us eating humble pie. Jed, you know my prediction history, eating humble pie. Most Sundays I'm in the kitchen cooking that shit up, baby. Humble pie is my main meal of choice. Ryan Deal said last week, as you would have heard, I just had an epiphany in the shower. Surely the way to beat Wilder is to get on his chest. Is there any chance Fury will go for this, a la Prime James Toney? Hoping he does, and we'll get a cracking fight. He gets KO'd if he boxes off the back foot again. Well, Mr. Real Deal, Ryan Deal, you got things absolutely spot on last week, as did Gabriel Lewis, who hasn't joined us just yet. You know what, Andy, I'm going to bring you in first on this one, right? Because we often talk in boxing about the puncher's chance. Never count out the puncher because he could turn the fight around in a single second. Deontay Wilder is one of, if not the biggest hitter in world boxing. He could be the standard bearer of the puncher's chance. But as early as the 3rd round, I thought Wilder was tiring, he was listless, he was desperate. I never thought for a second of that fight that he could turn it around. And remarkably, I never saw Deontay Wilder having the puncher's chance. Such was the domination of Tyson Fury.
Yeah, even with the second round, I mean, I never gave Wilder a round there last night. I know some people are giving him the second. It was probably the closer of the rounds at the 7, because he landed 2 right hands. But I just thought, Tyson was dominant with the jab, laid on him, far aggressive. I mean, I wasn't expecting him to come out that aggressive. And as I said probably before, maybe we said something similar about Huey. If he could just let the right hand go, it's far more exciting to watch. Going off Tyson's last couple of fights and stuff, it hasn't been good to watch whatsoever. So you think to yourself, okay, he's going to do what he normally does in box, but no, this time he took it to him. And you see a guy 6'9" on the inside and absolutely work the body. That second knockdown, the one with the left hook to the body, I thought he punched a hole in Wilder. As he punched him, he literally pushed him in at the same time. Such was the power. So it's been a really good move to get this 273-pound frame into the ring stuff. I know people were concerned or whatever and stuff, but in the end of the day, Tyson knows his own body. Wilder's obviously tried to kind of compensate for it himself, but as you say, mate, for me, there was the 3rd round. He got hurt early in that round. I think it was a jab maybe, and the legs buckled a little bit, and they kind of fell into a clinch. But there was, especially after the knockdown, which I think is probably the one that's burst the eardrum or cut his ear at least. There was no recovering for that, and he just, tons of heart by Wilder. I've got to give it to him, but he had no base, and with Fury just pressing the fight, he just couldn't get that base, couldn't get a solid stance to let the right hand go, and it was the right call. I mean, I think after the 5th round, there could have been serious, shouts to have that fight stopped. I didn't like the comments for JD's, I think it's Wilder's head trainer and manager and stuff, saying that it was Mark Breland who threw in the towel and that, so also they're going to go and getting scapegoats arranged and stuff. But come on. At the end of the day, we got what we wanted. We got an exciting fight. We didn't usually get it at heavyweight, but we got it this time again. We got a clinical ending, a clean ending. There's no conspiracies. There's no bullshit. There's nothing we can lay blame to. If we want to get fussy, we could say Kenny Bayless is maybe a wee bit fussy about some of the stuff on the inside. But at the end of the day, we got what we wanted. We didn't get any controversy. If you want to have a wee complaint, I can maybe make one about the only judge to give the second round to Deontay Wilder, but that's a very minimal excuse. Just everything about Fury there last night was absolutely emphatic. And I went with Wilder with the stoppage last week and stuff, but as I said, I was on the fence. I was kind of coming and going and stuff. If I was going to change my pick, it would have been Fury on points, and I think pretty much everybody else would have been the same, apart from Gabe. And that, congratulations, Gabe, for your pick. But it was just the way he came out there, domination for the first minute, the last minute of that fight, or how long it lasted and stuff. I don't want to dive into Joshua chat at the minute and stuff, because that can come on later on. I do, so everybody else is going to have their say and stuff. But as I say, his clinical ending. Wilder, as I say, is gutsy, but he had no answers. When I think the way DZ's talking, I think that's just more a camp who are more prone to kind of like, listen, hang in there, we'll get the shot, we'll get the opening, we'll get the right hand off at some point. But at the end of the day, it's always been the same case. If plan A doesn't work, what can you do is plan B, and there was no plan B. There's never has been a plan B. He just does what he always does. He jabs, he tries to be patient, he tries to pick you off, and he tries to get the right hand home. But it's just proven now that Fury has now written the blueprint of how to beat Deontay Wilder. Be aggressive, get in his face, get in his chest, just nullify the right hand, and he's got no answer to it. Just get him backing up, and just get your own shots off. And just to kind of mention on the actual finish itself, I thought it was really, really poised, by Fury. Very, he kind of stepped back, kind of faked the jab a little bit, 2 jabs to try and open up the guard, and pinged the right hand down the middle, and a couple of right hands followed up after that. I thought Bayless, as I say, he could have stopped at any time, as I say, in between the last 2 rounds, and I think the corner did the right thing, or at least Mark Breland did the right thing. You didn't want a guy, is he 34 now? You didn't want him seeing, absolutely damaged. He's not going to be able to come back and maybe get a potential rematch and stuff. So he loves to fight another day and that, but that was an absolute beating he took there. So mentally, you wouldn't be surprised if he's not going to be the same fighter again. But it'll be a big test of his character now to see how he returns to the ring, if he returns to the ring. But as it says, at the end of the day, all props and credit must go to the one and only Tyson Fury. Well, that was a fantastic performance.
Absolutely, Andy. Well said. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Good, strong, healthy, thriving chat there. Paul McAllister. John Kern said Kenny Bayliss must have been hanging out from getting in between the two of them and breaking them up, and inside work as much as he did. Yeah, I thought Bayliss was a little bit hesitant at times. I wouldn't necessarily criticise him, because you could say, Kenny Bayliss did a shit job, then we should have had, I don't know, Harvey Dockin or Thomas Taylor or Lawrence Cole, Jack Reese, somebody else. I think Kenny Bayliss is one of the best in the business. They have good times, they have bad times. They make snap decisions correctly. They make snap decisions that are, incorrect decisions. I think Bayliss probably did the best job that he possibly could in there. It wasn't always to my liking. I thought he was a little bit inconsistent. He was a little bit dithery at times. But Kenny Bayliss is one of the best, and he's only human, so I'll give him his time off for that. We might see WBC maybe elevate Tyson Fury to franchise champion now that he's unified with his lineal title. I don't know what Ozzy thinks about the title situation. I thought, Ozzy, that Wilder's equilibrium was off. Obviously, he seemed to have like a perforated eardrum. It was bleeding. He was using the ropes to stand up even at one point. But is it fair to say that for the first time in his career, Deontay Wilder was facing true adversity? Now, I know he did against Luis Ortiz, but this is the type of adversity where he was unable to deal with a difficult situation against an elite opponent. He was unable to find an answer, and Fury just refused to allow him the time to find an answer. This wasn't Spilka, Ortiz, as I mentioned. This wasn't Gerald Washington. This was a top fighter making Wilder fight his way, and he showed heart, he showed balls, he showed bottle, but he was not able to change his game plan and find an answer.
I would agree with that. And it's probably the first time in his career where he's had real pressure on him. He's been clocked. I mean, we've seen a couple of times he was hurt against Molina, Ortiz, but he weathered that storm, and he responded in emphatic fashion. This time he didn't. I thought the extra weight was a detriment to him. Deontay Wilder's an explosive fighter. I don't think the extra 10 or 15 pounds will make him punch any harder. He punches, he's probably the hardest hitter on the planet anyway. He doesn't need that extra power. And he's bulked up. And I think it was a detriment to him. He looked exhausted from pretty much the off. He struggled with the feints of Tyson Fury. He just didn't look comfortable whatsoever. And I said last week that it would be interesting to see if Fury can hurt him early and how that will affect Wilder. Fury landed at will at times, and Wilder just didn't know what to do. He was backing up in straight lines. He was just telegraphing the big right hand. You could see it was coming, and when he did land the right hand, Fury took it. There was no, like Bambi on ice legs. He was absolutely fine. It was a tremendous display. I think a lot of people felt that what he was saying about he was looking to knock him out was going to be a detriment to him. It was going to affect him. It was only going to end up one way, and Fury would end up on the canvas. And it was the complete opposite. It was a fantastic performance. And I want to touch on the weight from where people were saying, oh, it's a bad thing. People have got to remember this was good weight that he's put on. We're not talking about Andy Ruiz where he, where he piled on weight for eating tacos and donuts and pancakes and things like that. Tyson Fury was building up. He was already at a fighting weight and he bulked up a little bit, put the extra weight on, and it suited him down to the ground. I'm not necessarily saying he didn't really bully Wilder like he did at times in the first fight, but when he was mauling him, he was leaning all over him, and it was just too much for Deontay Wilder. And as I say, it was a fantastic performance and one from where I felt he'd win. I thought he had the potential to potentially get him out of there late. But I definitely didn't see it coming like it did, and it was one of the most one-sided 50-50s I have ever seen. Because pre-fight, particularly with the bookies, it was a coin flip. But watching it was just a one-sided beatdown, and this wasn't just a potential telegraph shot from where like Wilder was caught cold or anything. He was absolutely battered, and Tyson Fury battered the bully, because this is what Deontay Wilder does in fights. Wilder needs to. I certainly don't think he's been exposed. I've seen comments like that. He was just beaten by the better man. There's nothing wrong with that. I've always felt Tyson Fury is the best heavyweight on the planet. He causes problems for anybody because he can show now. He's got game plan A, B. He can box. He can clearly punch. I mean, there was a bit of a myth, that he's a bit of a feather fist. But you look at his record. His percentage is around 65, 70%. It's not a bad turnout that for someone who realistically boxes and moves. But no, overall a truly fantastic performance. We don't need to see the third fight, in my opinion. I think Team Wilder will look to avenge that loss straight away. But I just think it's going to go. I think it's going to go badly wrong. I don't see Deontay Wilder adapting. I don't think he can. I think he's got his way of fighting, and 9 times out of 10 it does work. Tyson Fury has shown he can adapt, and I think now he's only going to get better. He seems switched on. He's enjoying everything. He's loving being out at the Kronk again. I think Andy Lee and Sugar Hill were excellent in the corner. They've clearly got the respect of Tyson Fury, and I think that can be the biggest battle sometimes. So overall, I think we've got the. I think last night we saw the best heavyweight on the planet. By a distance as well, and when Fury's on form, nobody gets near him, nobody at all.
Nobody near Fury last night anyway. Shout out to everybody in the chat there. Real thriving chat, 10,000, just shy of 10,000 people in the chat, so the big fights do bring out the big listener numbers. Adam Smith's on the call. Maybe that's got something to do with the extra few thousand. Terry Woodfine threw in a question earlier on, or it was a bit of a comment really for you, Smido. He said, has this been the biggest heist in boxing history? Deontay Wilder takes a voluntary against a recovering addict in Fury because it was a given, quote unquote, then to only be brutally outclassed and have his career ended, titles ripped away from him in his own backyard. Is this the biggest heist from Fury, Smido?
Not sure I agree with that. I think that Fury chased the first fight rather than anything. I know it was a voluntary, and I know they thought they would do him, given the reasons you said, Steve, but I don't know. I don't think that it was that much of a calculated job to bring Fury in on a foregone conclusion that went wrong. Clearly, it's gone wrong and over the two fights. But echoing a lot of what the guys have already said, he was absolutely battered, Fury. I mean, going right back to the start. I mean, we've got to mention the entrance, Steve. Fury, Jesus Christ, what did he come in on? Some bloody magic carpet XXL. Like going back
just as well as one after that fucking entrance anyway, I can tell you.
Visually, I thought the entrance was cracking, but the audio, the soundtrack, it certainly didn't get the crowd going, or didn't get the people watching at home going. It was pretty tame. But Fury set the tone from the first second. He ran across the centre of the ring, that literally did happen. So he said he was going to do that. He said he was going to go for it earlier. And he said he was going to knock him out, and that's exactly what he's done. Overall, I mean, absolutely sensational performance. I picked Wilder last week, as many of us on this pod did. I got it wrong. Don't bother me saying that. I thought it was absolutely superb performance from Fury. To be honest with you, I thought he jabbed with authority, massive authority. He was hurting Wilder with jabs. You know, in the third and fourth and fifth rounds, he was hurting him with single jabs, and in the first and second round, he really established that. I think that's how he established it. He was doubling up the jab. He was feinting before the jab. He was doing it on the move. I thought that was really good. I mean, I don't think we've seen jabs like that in the heavyweight division since Vlad, really, because Wilder certainly don't jab enough, and I don't think Joshua does until he was in Saudi Arabia last year. I think Wilder had a blood coming from his bottom lip, I think, as early as the second round. Obviously, down in the third, with a left hook, which to my eye was disguised as a jab by Fury. And I think the following right hand from Fury would have landed bang on the button if it wasn't for Wilder spinning a little bit off that left hook. And as a result of that, he's ended up glancing him on the ear, which has caused some damage. Whether that was perforated or a cut ear, whatever it was, certainly caused some damage. And I tell you now, Bayliss, upon that first knockdown in the third round, considered calling that a slip. For a split second, he considered it, because Wilder was there with the shock on his face. He felt a bit, I wouldn't say awkwardly, but a bit different to what you usually see him from fighters, the way they go down. And Bayliss, I just think, for a split second, thought about calling that a slip. But obviously the count was already started for him, I think, by an official ringside, as is pretty standard. So yeah, that was obviously the correct decision. But yeah, Wilder was just not comfortable in the fight, was he? Ever. At all. He was never comfortable. I thought Fury's bodywork was superb, and that definitely helped exasperate the gassing of Wilder. Fury's work to the body definitely was paid dividends later as the fight went on. When Bayliss did let him work on the inside, which wasn't that often, Fury was just tapping him to the ribs with them hooks, and like you say, from an 18, 19 stone man, that's going to pay dividends as the fight goes on. I thought the second knockdown was top class. Really measured him to the body, full momentum on it, and I think the writing was on the wall then. I think there should have possibly been a second knockdown in that fifth, when the ropes clearly held Wilder up. That could have easily been called a knockdown. I actually thought that they were pulling him out before the seventh, Wilder. Very late getting off his stool. There was his team was still in the corner, quite a few seconds after Fury was stood up. I wondered if something was going on there, but on the BT feed, we didn't see or hear much of Wilder's corner, for obvious reasons, and I've got no problem with it. There was getting a bit more attention to the Fury corner. So yeah, that was I could have done with hearing what they were saying in the Wilder corner. Really, I would have liked that personally. Big note: the towel was not thrown in by who we would consider the main trainer of Fury. Is it Mark Breland?
Mark Breland, yeah, former world champion, Olympic gold medalist.
He did not throw the towel in, and he was not on the apron in the immediate aftermath of the towel going in. And afterwards, at the press conference, he said along the lines of, that wouldn't have been, I wouldn't have wanted him to throw the towel in, or I wouldn't have thrown the towel in. And he says, oh, well, wasn't it discussed? And he says, oh, well, we run our team, it's not just one man in charge, we run it like an NFL team, and there's speaking about offense and defensive coordinators. It was all a bit funny, but I think there's a bit of a script written there in terms of, I don't know who was the fella that did actually throw the towel in.
Breland's a fighter. Breland has been there and done it, right? And he was the one that got up on the apron after the fight and says, look, your ear's bleeding.
Yeah, so who's the white bloke?
The white bloke.
Isn't that a sign of concussion when your ear's bleeding? I think it is, isn't it? It's a sign of concussion.
Oh, see, either that or a burst eardrum, or it could be even worse, Steve. It could be something, something to do with the brain. You never know.
Yeah.
End of the day, his left side of his face was swelling up. As Ozzy said, and I've said, he's fucking cunt kicked in there last night.
Yeah,
it was a right call. I mean, he's got another payday off the back of that stoppage there last night. I mean, if that continued, what do we want? I mean, the Yanks are saying it's a poor stoppage. It could have went on longer. Gabe's saying that. Donnie's fucking pissed off.
Donnie lost the plot.
Donnie lost the plot last night. I mean, what do you want? Do you want to go out in a stretcher or something like that? I mean, sure, we've moved past all this shit. We wanted a clean finish. We got it. I thought it was the right call.
Well, the end was nigh anyway. Let's have it right. And as Andy's mentioned, the way that Fury, he got him in the corner, because I know Wilder was battered throughout the fight, but he didn't spend much time in the corner. And when he was there, that was pretty much the end of the fight. The end was nigh. The towel came in. But what I'm saying is, I don't know the names of the characters involved. Maybe I should. But the normal, the white fella that we normally see and hear as Wilder's coach or Wilder's mouthpiece, he did not throw the towel in. He was
JD's, is that you talking about, Smido? JD's, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, JD's.
He was at the press conference, sat alongside Shelley Winkle, and he was saying, "Oh, I wouldn't have done that." Blah blah blah. So there's a bit of a script there. But yeah, I think as has been mentioned, I think Wilder's going to be absolutely wrecked from this going forward. I know it's hard to write off someone, that this time 2 days ago was the biggest puncher in heavyweight history, and now we're writing him off, but he's going to be wrecked. He's been battered from pillar to post, really. I do think that they're going to take the rematch, and the reason being is because he ain't going to get an opportunity for this money or a title belt for some time. No, I mean, Joshua ain't taking no voluntary against Deontay Wilder, to be fair, is it? So I think they will take the rematch. I'm not interested in seeing it. I don't really care. But yeah, my conclusion: Fury told us what he was going to do, and he did it. Sensational, and all credit to him. Absolutely brilliant performance.
Thieves even fucking blamed the suit was too heavy. Can that fucking black, whatever it was, Black Lives Matter outfit?
Yeah, it looked like something out of the Transformers.
Fucking hell.
Rob, I know you're coming in to make a quick point. I just wanted to clarify. I was mentioning Breland's World Championship and Olympic credentials just to let people know that he's not some punk off the street. I have respect for Mark Breland.
Yeah, Mark Breland was if Mark Breland could give Deontay Wilder a tenth of what Mark Breland could do, he'd be unstoppable. Mark Breland, technique-wise, jab, straight right hand. If anyone hasn't watched him, he's a joy to watch. He was a great, big, tall guy to make 147 as well. Destroyed Lloyd Honeyghan years ago, involved in some really good fights. No, I was just, I can't even remember. I think it's just like fellas want to keep their jobs now, because they heard Wilder say after the fight that he wanted to go out on a shield and he'd rather get knocked out than get pulled out. So nobody wants to take responsibility now. But they surely were fucking talking to each other. They're sitting beside each other, like in the corner.
To be honest, mate, yourself. Fucking hell, you can't have a Chinese parliament in the corner. You need one man to be in charge and make that decision. It was like when Angelo Dundee pulled Ali out against Berbick and stuff like that. He's fucking. He got what's his name? Bondini. He's fucking begging him what you're doing. He's like, I'm the fucking man in charge. I'm stopping this fucking fight, and that is the end of it. That is the end of the matter. That is, you got one man in charge, and that is it.
Yeah, and they shouldn't have even had that fight. But that, look aside. No, sorry, Steve, I didn't mean to jump in there.
Mm-hmm. No, that's okay. Go on. If you want to make a point, Rob, go ahead before I bring Dominic in.
No, bring Dom in there, dude. No worries.
Okay, will do. Jason Chukwu's in the chat, everybody. I know you would want me to mention that. Chukwu must have had the old Google Drive out before the podcast. He's likening Fury's win to GBH, rape and sodomy. Chukwu is absolutely on one tonight over in the chat box. Dominic Henry, don't worry too much about that. Good evening to you. Hope you're keeping well. Tell me about this third fight then. From the perspective of both fighters, would you, Dominic, if you were either Fury or Wilder, be pushing for the third fight? And would you push for it to happen right away? You with us, Dominic? Dominic is muted. He's away off somewhere. We'll try and get Dominic back as soon as we can. Who else is on the call with us? The Oracle himself, Gabe Lewis. Everybody wants to hear from Gabe. You nailed it. We laughed at you, Gabe. Woo! Dominic's trying to unmute himself. See if you can unmute yourself, Gabe, while we try and fix up Dominic. Give him a little... Oh, Dominic's with us. Hold that thought, Gabe. Hold that thought. Dominic's with us. What?
Sorry, Gabe.
Yep. Go on.
Sorry. Go on ahead, Steve.
No, I was asking you regarding the third fight. People are saying they should go on their separate ways, but from the perspective of both fighters, would you be pushing for a third fight straight away, coming up soon? What would you want to do if you were both Fury or Wilder?
Well, just from the point of view of Wilder, my thought was, having watched the fight this morning, I thought, if the people around him, if they have his best interests at heart, they'll say to him, don't go anywhere near this here unless you want to, because you can't. It's hard to envisage anything other than the exact same thing happening again. For Fury, I suppose, for Fury, the only risk is that he seems to be someone who, if he's in a fight where he's expected to win and he's like a heavy favourite, that there's sometimes a danger where he sort of gets a bit flat in fights where he's sort of odds-on favourite, and it seems to be that it's when the odds are against him that he really sort of steps up to the plate. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I don't really want to see a third fight. I mean, I thought Fury won the first fight, and I thought last night to me that was the rematch. You know, that was the. I don't want to see another one really, but I mean the money, it's probably huge money again, and you know Wilder he would earn a lot of money again. But I mean it's I mean the other thing is, I mean the sort of beating he took last night. They're talking about you know, this new stadium that's opening in Vegas, and you know, sort of having a fight there. But yeah, Andy's just said there in the chat, Wilder has 30 days to activate that rematch clause. But with the sort of beating he took last night, you know, you would have to imagine that he needs a good bit of time to sort of recuperate and you know, sort of evaluate what went wrong, you know. So it's I mean it's similar, you know, you compare it to what happened to AJ when AJ got beat by Ruiz, and AJ took a beating in that first fight too, but he went straight into the rematch. So it's hard to know really. It's I would want to see the Joshua fight, and you know, all this talk about Pulev fight, mandatory. I mean, I saw someone saying earlier today, you know, Pulev will take step aside. I think Pulev would take step. I mean, the money that Fury and Joshua fight would make is obscene wherever it's held. And you know, even if you're paying Pulev something like 7-8 million to step aside, that's probably going to be a drop in the ocean in terms of the overall revenue that's going to be generated by a Fury Joshua fight. So there's a few other things I want to say, Steve, but I won't say them now. But I mean, they're going ahead, whatever you want to ask.
Yeah,
Steve, you know what
go on.
You know, on the rematch, I'm just wondering whether Wilder might trigger the 30-day. They announce it, blah blah blah, and then you know, when he's in training and they make a couple of changes to training, and his confidence is gone. You could see him agreeing to the fight and then pulling out. Could see that happening.
Nah, I didn't see that.
Is there a date of when it needs to happen by?
June
So
or July, I've been told.
I wonder if he'll be fit.
Well, that's what we're saying, man. He took a beating there last night.
So in reality, what he needs at least
6 to 8 months.
Well, yeah, comfortably. That's what he should be having off. In reality, he'd be having what, 4 weeks off, 5 weeks off, and then he'd be getting straight back into camp.
Especially if he's been concussed. As you say, Steve, if he's been concussed during that fight, mate, he's going to need adequate time to recover for that.
I said to Smido last night, I think he's broke his jaw as well.
Yeah, his left eye was all swollen up as well. The left side of his face was swollen.
We've not heard a proper update since, but I think he broke his jaw. So I mean, if he's coming out with a perforated eardrum, I mean, obviously bleeding from the ear, which is never a good sign, as you said, Andy, as well. I mean, fuck me, that can mean a serious brain injury, you know.
Exactly.
People die from, you know, usually if you're seeing bleeding from the ear like that. You've got that. You've got a potential broken jaw. He's apparently saying that he has a leg injury as well. He's a wounded animal, and to potentially chuck him back in from where he's just been beaten up. And that's just physically, mentally as well. This is a guy who's had it pretty much all of his own way.
He's also had hand problems in the past and that as well. And if you look at him in sparring, I think he straps up his left elbow, I think, as well.
Yeah, I get why. Obviously, you've got the financial aspect of why people want to be looking to cash that in immediately. And it's an automatic shot at a belt that he's just lost. However, he can go in, and if he's solely cash orientated, fine. But another huge beating there, I don't think you'd see him again. Deontay Wilder could go away. He could have 6-7 months off, just relaxing, chilling out, getting himself fit, strong. He can come back, and he can fight someone like a Charles Martin. You know, he was on the undercard last night. Go and evaporate him. Go and get back to doing what you do best. Then look to step up the level again against, you know, like who else is there now? You know, maybe someone like a Pulev type of opponent, and then you just work. He's well in with the WBC. It wouldn't be a shock, you know, to potentially see him in some sort of, you know, like immediate final eliminator in the near future or something like that. Imagine they called Dillian White Deontay Wilder as like the fight for right to fight the winners of either essentially Fury or Joshua or something like that.
White was the biggest loser last night. No, Deontay Wilder. White was the biggest loser last night because, as you say, mate, the WBC will look after Wilder. Maybe no drop him down too far like they do with other champions and stuff. I think he'll be kept around about the number 3 mark. Yeah. And as you say, if he's got that rematch clause, it's just going to push things back further. So Pulev fights Josh, which I agree. Pulev, if Wilder doesn't take it, Aram, I think, could talk Pulev out of that and make the unification and go for it.
When's that fight? When's Pulev Joshua fighting each other?
Well, they've not got a date set yet because Pulev's wanting it.
June.
He doesn't want June. Is it definitely June?
Why are they fighting in June? It's so frigging long. Why does it take so long for?
Well, he fights twice a year, doesn't he? June, December, something like that.
Tax reasons.
You know the end of the 6th round. That was the first time that J Diaz, or however you say his name, got in the ring. He was normally outside the ring. He got in the ring. He was having a word in Wilder's ear. There's definitely something going on between the 6th and 7th. They're so late to clear the ring.
Yeah, I have a question in on that. Here, boys, I need to get the other guys in as well. I have their say.
Yeah.
Gazapalooza's on the call. We'll get Gazapalooza in a second. First of all, Gabe Lewis, as I was saying, you are the Oracle. You called it last week. Come in and bask in your glory, Gabe. Tell us why you got it so right and most of us got it so wrong.
Well, it was my thought was that if Fury was being serious about moving forward in the fight and applying pressure, I don't feel like Deontay Wilder can box off the back foot. He's always got that offhand chance to land the big right hand, and so I was basing my prediction based off of what Fury said he was going to attempt to do. Now, obviously, I didn't think he would go for it as early as the 2nd round like he said he was going to. I felt like even if he did apply pressure, it would be a very tactical kind of pressure because he's not going to walk through too many Wilder punches. Because if Wilder, like we talked about last week, started landing the left hand in a hook and then dropping the right hand down the pipe, it could have been really bad for him. So I thought an intelligent kind of pressure is what he was going to do if he indeed worked with what he said he was going to do. And Wilder is not a boxer. He's not a boxer off the back foot. Even whenever he was fighting Luis Ortiz in his last fight, you saw he just doesn't do well in that scenario. And so that was kind of what I based my prediction off of. If he were to have boxed, I don't think it would have went the same way as it did. I think it would have been drawn out a lot longer, possibly another scenario that we saw similar to the first fight where Fury made him look silly for a while and then Wilder maybe had an opportunity. But with the pressure applied that he did, and once he had him hurt and discombobulated, he was able to then really come forward in a way that he really maybe very few people thought that he would. But with Wilder in the state that he was in, that allowed him to do kind of pretty much whatever he wanted to now. And then at that point, he only had to be mindful of the right hand. So I know a lot of us have watched boxing for quite some time, and I think it's one of those things that you hear people talk about where if a guy gets hurt, he's going to revert back to what he always does. So when a guy gets stung, if it's a Wilder, he's going to go back to what is most comfortable, what his most natural state is, and that's going to be trying to unload the right hand. And so at that point, he didn't have to worry about a left hand hook or a jab, anything like that. He was able to just key on the right hand and move forward, and that's exactly what happened. It was a really interesting fight because I didn't necessarily see it going the way that it did. My thought going in with the pressure was going to be he was going to be obviously smart with it, and then it was going to be kind of like the right hand that Juan Marquez knocked out Pacquiao with, or that Marco Barrera hit Marquez with and knocked him down in their fight. You know, he slips the right hand punch from his opponent, comes with his own right hand, and drops him like a sack of taters. And I kind of thought it would be something more similar to that, as opposed to Wilder being smashed up and just kind of all sorts of trouble. And whenever that happened, it just worked out perfectly for Fury. He looked dominant. He looked great. And I thought it was really phenomenal. Really phenomenal performance. Wilder showed that I think he has some guts and some heart because he was still doing what he could in the fight to try to get back into it. it just was not going to happen as bad off as he was, and he couldn't defend well enough to allow himself the time to get his legs back. And so it was a beautiful performance on the part of Fury. Wilder did what he could, so I think there's some respect to be paid there. I think he just went in thinking it was going to be similar to the first fight. I don't think he really believed what Fury was saying, and I don't really know that a lot of people did. I put my faith in it and was rewarded with a good outcome. And there's some of us that did believe that Fury was going to win. And I think it was overall a tremendous night. It was a great night for boxing all over, because people are going to keep tuning in. They want to see what Fury does next. And I think that if you were there and felt the vibes and some of the stuff that was going on social media-wise and all that, I think there was a lot of Fury support there. I think the average American fan is more likely to have that ESPN subscription than to be always tuning in to PBC cards, which come Showtime and Fox Sports and regular Fox. And so I think that he's built up very well on the ESPN Plus platform. And I think Bob and Frank Warren have done a great job with him. And so I think the future is wide open for him now. And in terms of a third fight, I don't think it happens right away. I think Wilder is done for the year. If the Fury Joshua fight does go off, then fair play. That's a hell of a year. And that would be if he won that Fighter of the Year honors, I think. Assuming that nobody else comes with maybe 3 really big fights all in the same year. But it could be a tremendous way for him to wind down the year. And then if he's serious about all this MMA stuff or wrestling or whatever it is that he wants to do afterwards, I think we may be drawn fairly close to the end of Fury. I don't know that he's going to continue on based on the things that he said, but he does talk a lot of pish, so there's no telling really what's going to happen. But I'm really interested to see what happens next, and I think pretty much wherever he goes, he's going to command the negotiations and the lion's share of what happens with Joshua. I mean, everybody knows that he has the belts, and that's going to give him some leverage. But I think the people, the fans that aren't matchroom fanatics, are going to look at it and see Fury as what he really is, and that's the king of the heavyweight division currently. So it was a great show. I was really excited to see it, and overall a great evening.
Gabe mentioning pish there. Could hopefully the pish is all clean. Could you imagine if either or wasn't? The fallout would be absolutely amazing.
Oh no, please, please don't, man.
Please,
they better no piss dirty, man. They can't. Fuck no.
Could you imagine either of them? Yeah, but just a quick thing regarding excuses. Boxing's not a sport for excuses, is it? You see guys like Arturo Gatti running around with his eye hanging out, and you can't bring excuses to the table. What I will say is, not just Wilder, I'm sure that in some cases, in a lot of cases, the excuses are probably legitimate. Like David Hayes' toe probably was hurting him. Wilder's gear probably was too heavy. Jeff Horn's trainers probably didn't fit right when he was running before the Crawford fight. But you just can't go there. You can't bring that shit out, man. It's just not the type of sport for it. You have to just stay quiet, just take your lumps. You can't do that, Rob.
No excuses is now the no offence, or having said that, because it's like no excuses. The better man won, no excuses, but my leg was fucked. You know what I mean? It's like, no offense, man, but you are a prick. You know what I mean? It's like fucking, it's the go-to one, like, isn't it? I'm not here to make excuses, but things weren't right in the camp. Like,
it's like I like you, Rob, but there's always that fucking but at the end.
But I won't ring you at fucking 5 in the morning. Like I said, I wouldn't let you fucking fall asleep and miss the fight.
Sorry, mate. My fault. You're drinking 8 cans and fucking.
He goes to me, right, I'll phone you. So the last voice note I left into the chat was like, right, lads, ring me at 5 or whenever it's on. I'm on the couch here, I'm fading, ring me. So I get a voicemail off Andy. Rob, are you up? How the fuck do you think I was going to hear that?
Like Father Ted knocked the door just so loudly you don't wake him up.
And then another one, and 10 minutes later, he's steaming as well, by the way. Another one, fucking 10 minutes later, Rob. And then he's like, Rob is KO'd. So I looked in the chat, and thankfully the result wasn't given away, and I just fucking went straight and I watched the fight, didn't check anything, but we'll come back to it all.
Rob, you had a chance.
Sorry about that, Rob. I was half bottle deep at that point.
Rob had the chance to join the Asylum Smiths, and he declined the opportunity. So, had you have come to the Wigan area, Rob, you would not have fallen asleep, and you would have been able to watch it live. So, I think you now you know what to do next time is you get that flight booked in, and you fly over for the fight.
Ryanair. It's kind of hard to navigate a Ryanair from Wexford to Wigan on a fucking day's notice. Definitely.
Make things happen.
Coming to you shortly, wrapping up, Kelly, with a question regarding Andy Lee. Before we do so, I want to get our guest on. One of the more esteemed listeners of the pod, always throws in questions. Gazapalooza is on the call. Hey, you Gaz. Can we hear you okay?
Yeah. Evening, fellas. Can you get us?
Absolutely, I can hear you. I have a question for you, Gaz. It comes from an esteemed listener, yourself, no less. Wilder's Corner, you said earlier, were a disgrace. No check-ins for his well-being. He was gone in round 3. What annoyed you so much about the corner?
Well, I just thought it was fucking appalling, to be honest. You know, how many deaths has there been in boxing in, the last 18 months alone? What's it been, 4 or 5? And he looked pissed up. I got up at 4:45, watched the fight with Mrs. who she's not really into it so much, but she says to me, he looks absolutely fucking pissed up. Mouth was open, breathing slow, breathing heavily. He was barely throwing punches. I think was it round 5. I think he threw 5 punches and didn't land any. And all JD has kept mentioning was keep coming forward. As someone's rightly pointed out already, got in round 6, had a word with him, looked like there was gonna maybe pull him out there. Kept saying he's going to come out, and he didn't. I don't know. And then his reaction at the end, I don't know. Does anyone think he was half waiting to be taken out? I don't know.
Do you think that, given the fact that he's always found a way in the past, they were just expecting to come? Maybe a bit of complacency.
Yeah, I mean, just poor. I mean, who else does he train? Jay Diaz.
JD.
Is he not just a manager, or is he a head?
He's a manager who does the corner. He used to deal a lot with Omar Henry. I've spoke to him in the past. He is like a manager type, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few clips when he's massaging his back or something in camp or something and doing the pads with him, but I'm not actually sure. Has he got anyone with any intelligence, training him? What's actually going on with him? Because you're absolutely right. Fury has shown the way to get at him, and I'll be surprised if he gets back in the ring. I mean, I'll take my hats off to Fury. I didn't believe him one bit. I thought he was bluffing. I thought he was going to come out, jab and move, and just get his way to, points victory. But he was absolutely outstanding. I was concerned about him in the lead up to the fight. He seemed a little bit miserable, a little bit aggy with some of the press, and I was thinking, has he had enough? Did anyone catch one of the interviews he did last night on the way out of the ring? He said, is this your pinnacle? What's next? And he said, I've already hit the pinnacle. That's it. I'm done now.
Not many people regain the heavyweight title, by the way.
Yeah, well, he's absolutely right. And if you hit the high over Klitschko, and let's be honest, Klitschko then was a better fighter than Wilder is now. But the manner in which Fury won back then is why he didn't get the credit. Because, to a boxing purist, as lovely as it was to watch, it wasn't entertaining.
Another thing as well, is we should maybe just throw us in here, actually, he broke the record, the two of them broke the record for a live gate in Nevada there last night.
Yeah,
he stood for about 20 odd years, I think. Lewis against Holyfield rematch.
Yeah, this is what I mean. It's going to be, if his mental health is as fragile as he claims to be, he's going to struggle to get himself up. What I wouldn't be surprised is, actually would be piss funny really, is the Wilder fight with Fury, to me, initially was made, it was let's keep Joshua and AJ out. They've made another one to keep him out. It wouldn't surprise me if they don't go up to him and say, okay, well, you can have the fight, AJ, but it's 70-30 in our favour. And they'll just freeze him out again for another 12 months. I could see Fury having 2 really, really just knockovers and then walking away. AJ's left with no dance partner then at all, is he? So it wouldn't surprise me if that's the next trick they pull. But as you mentioned, Andy, Dillian White's been absolutely screwed over here, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's the biggest loser here.
He was tweeting out Eddie Hearn last night and getting absolutely nothing back.
He's not been screwed though. I mean, White has only got himself to blame because he's
correct.
3 or 4 final eliminators against Pulev, and he goes, I don't want to go because there's not enough cash. He's turned down a fight with Joshua. He's turned down, I think, another fight with Fury. White wants it all his own way, and he doesn't hold any of the cards. So, look, I know he's been at that number 1 spot, but being in the number 1 spot means
So was Callum Smith.
It means nothing unless they call the mandatory. Yeah. Unless they call that mandatory, it doesn't matter. You could be at 10, 8, 1, 5. It means fuck all. Once that mandatory is called, that is when that spot becomes lucrative and worthwhile, and it's only just been called. So,
I mean,
bang on all he wants, but he's only got himself to blame.
Yeah, I completely agree. Do you think there's anything? I mean, why hasn't the White fight been announced? Why hasn't the AJ fight been announced? I mean, surely they weren't waiting for this to then make the next move. But I mean, AJ's not fighting till I think it's end of June, 20-something of June. I mean,
so they're juggling the fight so mate. Like they had to have chats with Music's team in regards to WBO title because he's called his shot because he's now entitled for a mandatory. Pulev wanted to fight abroad and he wanted more money, so obviously that's a sticking point. So we don't know where it's at the minute. So they're trying to negotiate 2 mandatories. They might end up even losing belts here. You never know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if we don't ever. This is the cynic in me though. If we don't see the Fury Joshua fight, I mean, if for some daft, amazing reason we get to it, it's not going to be till later on in the year. Fury's going to want a break, so that means AJ is going to have almost 12 months off, over half a year at least.
Cycling as well.
I just can't. It's a cynic in me, and it pisses me
off. Do you think we'll get to a point where we don't see AJ fight either Fury or Wilder? Do you think that's a possibility?
Wouldn't surprise me. It would really surprise me if we see Wilder in the ring again, to be honest, because if he's not fit enough for this rematch. I saw today on Twitter that it's 30 days, but it can be extended. And then if he agrees to it, it's August, but that can also be extended. That's come from Bob Arum. Won't surprise me if he ends up signing with Top Rank and having a few, dance, even with someone like Big Baby Miller. But as shit as he is, if he just puts it on Wilder's not. He needs to be balanced to throw his right hand, and he's absolutely exposed him last night, hasn't he?
See, just on that Joshua Hearn situation, by the way. Just remember this, for everybody. Hearn does not make the shots or make the calls here. Hearn is the mouthpiece. Joshua is the one in charge. He decides who he fights and he tells Hearn who to go and make for him. So basically, when you hear Eddie talk, he's talking for Joshua. He's not talking for anybody else. He's talking for Anthony Joshua. Just remember that one as well.
Would you not think though, right, that they've not announced the Joshua, like in defence of them a little bit, they've not announced Joshua's next fight because maybe genuinely they do want to make the winner.
Politics, mate. Politics.
Maybe they
want to be seen to do it. It's the worst kept secret that the fucking fight is made. Like everybody knows that fight's next.
I agree. They want, for financially wise, I think they'd want the fight, but the time scale wise now, I think they'd have to pay Pulev step aside, which you've said, and you're talking September, October before Fury's going to get back in the ring. He's going to have a break and then not going to a camp. Just back onto Wilder really quickly before I flit off. Do you think only having 3 months in between the Ortiz fight and this fight has been a factor last night?
I do.
I don't. He likes to keep active. I'll give him that. I think he'd rather be active and in the gym and things like that. I just think he's come up. I think he's tried to change too much. It's not just tweaking certain things in the gym, like working on certain shots and things like that. He came into the fight at a career high, heavy in terms of weight. Yes, and why? Why did he feel he needed to do that? Like we said, that sort of fighter, he works in short bursts, explosive shots, carrying more muscle around with you and things like that. We saw it with Joshua. He bulked up to a stage where after 6 rounds he was gassed because he just couldn't get enough oxygen around those muscles and he was tiring big time. Wilder needs to come in at around 215, 218. He keeps that explosive. I mean, like I said, he punches as hard as he's the hardest hitter. So he doesn't need to punch even harder. He just needs to retain his key attributes. And I think coming in at over 230, obviously he's then going to eat and things like that, and he's going to put more weight on. I think he adjusted too many things to try and counteract Fury's additional weight, and it completely backfired on him. And like we say, he looked knackered after 3 rounds last night, Wilder.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
He looked shattered. So I think they've tried to change too much. They've tried to be clever, and it's completely backfired. As I've said again, he doesn't need to be heavy to improve his performance. I think it's fair to say he came in too light in the first fight, but when he comes in around the 215, 218 mark, that's when you see the best of him, and it's because he's quick, he's explosive, and that's what he relies on.
Yeah. I mean, just one final point before I go, fellas. I mean, big balls to Fury, absolutely changing his style for, the first time in his career, in his biggest ever fight. Could his career have been differently if he'd have made this change years ago? Has he been held back?
He has been quite innovative in the past. He has been quite innovative, not to such a great level, but I remember when he fought Martin Rogan in Belfast, he just came out randomly as a southpaw, which, to my knowledge, was the first time he'd really done that. Fought most of the fight as a southpaw, so he has got a boxing brain. He is able to surprise people tactically. So the fact he was able to come out here and did what he said he would do, which I didn't expect him to do, he took away Wilder's right hand, got straight into his face. Wilder started panicking, got the eardrum hurt. What I'm saying is, he is adaptable, tactically adaptable.
Did he not fight Kevin Johnson exclusive as a southpaw as well?
Oh, that was one of the worst fights
I know, but I'm sure he did though.
He did it to Chisora as well. He boxed solely as a southpaw as well, I think, in the second fight. And he absolutely peppered Chisora.
Sure, he even punched himself in the face once. You never know what he's going to
do. That's probably the worst beating Chisora got. I mean, you think about it. After that fight, everybody thought Chisora was finished because he took such a shelling, and then he ended up fighting better than ever up to this day. So that's a kind of an underrated win for Fury as well, because he absolutely broke him up in that second fight, and he didn't even look fit.
Yeah, he made Chisora look like the Elephant Man. He had two swollen eyes, but he busted jaws. He was everything. No one has really, like you say, Rob, he battered Chisora, absolutely battered him. And it wasn't, was a one-sided beatdown, just repeated shots again. And like we say, now people are talking about him, Chisora, he's class, he's still world level. Well, Fury's absolutely annihilated him as well. I think Fury, if you look over his resume now, it's becoming increasingly stronger. And I mean, people say now, he needs to, get a couple more key wins. In reality, what more does he need to do? He goes and beats Joshua. After that, he can retire a happy man. And he has essentially beaten everybody possible, who is worthwhile. What else can he do, really?
See, if he beats Joshua, I want to see him then give the belts away and just fight once a year, just to maintain his lineal status and the Ring Magazine belt and stuff, just to let people know I'm the man, and fight who he wants. Let him come to him.
Here, Andy, here's the real interesting thing. This is what I really want to ask you about, because where is that fight? If that fight happens this year, whenever it happens, where is it going to be?
Well, Hearn's talking about it needs to go abroad because there's not enough money. Well, he said, and I quote, Hearn says there's not enough money for Pulev wants to fight Joshua to have that fight in the UK. So that's the reason why Joshua, for the fans, is going to take a pay cut. Right? Bullshit. Right? So anyway, Eddie's fucking milked this market dry in the UK. Now, at the end of this, you never know. Fury might come out and say, look, I want the fight to be in the UK, make it happen. But
well, here, Andy, here's what he said.
Bidder.
The reason why I asked it is because whenever you have to take everything Fury says with a pinch of salt, because he says sometimes he contradicts himself, but during the week he gave an interview in the build up to the fight where he was asked, if you win, what's going to happen next? Are you going to fight Joshua? And if you do fight Joshua, where will it be? And what he said was that Vegas is now the home of the Gypsy King, and that his remaining fights, that he doesn't actually currently have a British license. Not that he wouldn't be able to get one if he wanted, but he's allowed his British license to lapse. And my thoughts about it are, when I thought about this after he said it, is if I was Fury, I think it would be the smart move not to have the fight in the UK, because I think
biggest market's America.
Well, not just. I'm not chiefly thinking about. I think commercially, yes, it's the biggest market is America. Although it would definitely smash the UK pay-per-view record. I mean, it would obliterate the UK pay-per-view record. But what I'm more thinking of from Fury's point of view, from his mindset, my feeling is that Fury is still in a lot of circles very much an anti-establishment figure in Britain, and if that fight goes to the scorecards, which I could imagine that fight, Joshua is a more technically sound fighter than Wilder, and I could imagine that fight being quite cagey, but with Fury winning maybe an 8-4 cagey boxing match. And I just think Fury, he's very smart, and I think he would know that he might not want to risk. He might not want to risk a fight against Joshua on UK soil going to the cards. I'm just speculating, but if you think about, Fury's very much, big mainstream press organisations who cover sport. I'm thinking of people like the Times. The view Fury is sort of like, he's a sort of antithesis of Joshua. Joshua really is like the pin-up guy. All these, like, if you remember before the Fury Klitschko fight, you had people like Matt Dickinson in the Times. You remember when Fury made those notorious remarks about, paedophilia?
Over once you win the belt.
He said paedophilia follows from homosexuality, and people like Matt Dickinson went to town on it, and they really went in hard on him, and so I think there's still that sense that
superior race Joshua.
Yeah, I mean it's all. I mean, well, Fury. We all know Fury being a traveller, a gypsy. It's sort of like it's upset that he's. I just thought it was interesting. I think Fury. One thing you have to understand about Fury, I think we haven't really given him enough credit. He's very, very smart. I'm not just talking about in the ring, but if you look at all the decisions he makes in terms of bringing on someone like Sugar Hill, the weight, not just the decisions about how he's going to fight, but I mean mentally he's so smart. I mean, there was a program on ITV a few years ago, sort of like a casual program called Boxing Mavericks, and Fury, they had Nas, all the Mavericks, and then they got to Fury at the end, and your man Jim Rosenthal, who used to do the boxing on ITV, he just said, I always remember him saying, he said, you'd have to be up very early in the morning to get one over on Fury. I mean, he really is very, very smart. And, like, can you imagine, the sort of, the build-up to the fight, Eddie thinks he's a sort of a mind games merchant, but against Fury, and not just Fury, but, like, the old man and the brothers, Eddie would be, he'd be running for cover, like, so I just think Fury, I think he might think it might be more sensible to have a fight like that in Vegas, where everything's very, very neutral, and he seems to be more at home over in the States than AJ. AJ's won 4 out of the States. We know how it ended up, so just an
he's not comfortable there. Joshua's not comfortable in the States at all. He doesn't want to be there.
He's not.
It's going to be one of that if it happens, is one of the biggest sporting events in the history of British sport, not just British boxing. It'll be a real thing.
It's the biggest. It's the single biggest. I don't think you can exaggerate. It would bring the country to a standstill. It would bring.
I said they'd do. I said to Smido last night. I said they could do 100. If there was a venue, they'd do 150,000 tickets to that comfortably.
I do you remember those venues in the early 20th century where Jack Johnson was fighting? It was like flipping 130,000 on it. Like,
it would do that comfortably, absolutely comfortably.
What are you thinking about pay-per-view numbers for last night? Because I'm telling you what, as I say, they broke the live gate for Nevada. If pay-per-view is looking upwards between 800,000 and a million, by the way.
Because we guessed before, didn't we, a few weeks ago, and I said like 550 or something, but I think it's going to be higher.
I was listening to the boys. I was listening to Kenny and Vince there at the boxing rant, and they were saying they were estimating something like 700, 800,000 would be really good, because like what Canelo had pulled in, I think it was.
Yeah.
But it says like a million could be a push now, but I don't know. Like, I mean, they seem to have marketed the shit out of this, and it seems to have worked pretty well. All the guys were there last night. All the big athletes. You got Pat Mahomes, who's the MVP of the Super Bowl. Yeah. You've got fucking Magic Johnson. You've got Triple H. You've got all these fucking big Vander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, Ben Faruqi. Everybody's there, man. They're all paying their money to go and watch this shit. So if pay-per-view comes through as well with like just say 1 million, fucking hell, can you imagine the hand that Fury's going to hold over Joshua to have this fight in America? Fucking hell!
It's not just that, but this fight got a mention in the presidential speeches. That is some going.
Trump likes his boxing as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean,
he used to be at the boxing, didn't he?
Yeah, the marketing was tremendous. I mean, they did everything right. They got them at like the college finals and things like that for the American football, which has huge viewership and things like that. I think the promotion of the event itself in the UK and in America was superb, and I think everybody who was involved with this, did an excellent job. And I mean, on the face of it, it seems to have massively paid off. I think we'll see the numbers soon, but they've started off well, breaking the record at the gate. I mean, that's no easy feat. So you would think that the only way is essentially up. I mean, I think Bob Aaron, was he not looking at 2 million buys or something like that?
Start of the year, mate. Just before the Super Bowl, kind of package
that is ambitious. But
actually, it was before the college championships. Sorry, the American football college championships. They had Fury and Wilder on, I believe, as well. Doing press conferences, and Aaron was talking about 2 million buys, which was like massive at that point, because that's what. But I'm saying that if you do 1 million, it's going to be amazing.
Heyman's good at all that, isn't he? Fox, they push it onto like the American football and all that. Yeah.
But what Fury did as well, he did the best thing as well. He was on WWE, so he was on Raw, SmackDown. He went over and was on a pay-per-view in Saudi, as part of the WWE as well. So he's opening himself up to a younger market there, from where people think, oh, I want to watch him. Dad, can we get this pay-per-view? Because he was, he knocked out Braun Strowman and things like that.
Yeah, then knocks out the American Wilder on his own turf.
My son said that. I said, why are you not streaming, you little cunt? Disown me.
The way Fury's. I mean, look, I don't know. Gabe is probably more suited to answer this, and Dave when he's on and things like that. But from the reaction I saw, that Fury's name overall has grown massively over the past 6 months, and I think it's only going to get bigger in the near future as well. I mean, there's probably Gabe who can answer that, because he's seeing the market over there on a daily basis. But from what we saw about the queues, the queues getting into the weigh-in, like 6 hours before, and
it was people couldn't get in.
Thousands of people were there.
Things like that. I mean,
yeah, it was unbelievable. I was surprised how well received this has been. I know they marketed it well, but it doesn't always guarantee, result in sales and things like that well. I mean, look, completely proved wrong. It was unreal and a tremendous.
Gabe's coming in. Sorry, boys, I'm going to have to move on because we have got a few questions we need to get to, and I need to get to Rob Kelly as well. Gabe.
Sure, I think that Oz is right about Fury's profile here. I mean, it's kind of unique here because so many people in the States, their automatic go-to for sports programming is going to be ESPN. They give you highlights. They give you full games, basketball, NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL football. I mean, ESPN is the sports provider for the whole United States, and it's really unique because of that. Like all this time that they spent with the last 2 fights with Fury and all the promotional stuff and everything that they've done, being run through ESPN is naturally going to hit tons of views. So I think that's part of the problem with like the Zone is that it's catering to a much smaller audience. But ESPN, even the average non-sports fan is aware of ESPN. Even the person who is not a fanatic of any particular sport and maybe only catches a couple of games a year, maybe a baseball game during baseball season, or maybe that guy that only watches the championships, so the World Series or the NBA Finals or the Super Bowl. All the coverage, I mean, basically belongs to ESPN. So I think that Fury's profile has absolutely grown. And let's face it, I mean, he's a charismatic guy. He talks shit. He is flashy. He does outlandish things. Of course, he's going to attract a certain number of people. Going into the WWE as well was a huge move for him because he's going to provide the opportunity for more exposure to those people there. So naturally, you're going to have some of those kids. Yeah, like Oz said, he knocked out some wrestler. So now the 12-year-old kid is going to want to watch him in a real boxing match, and I think that profile has grown huge.
Well, let's move on then, boys. Episode 361 of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. Ozzy's with us, Smido's with us, so is Dominic, rapping Rob Kelly, Andy, Gabe, and me, Steve. Let's fly through a few questions. Be as brief as you can, boys. If possible, rapping Rob Kelly, first of all to you. Sean the Source Anslow says, question for Rob Kelly. How big was Andy Lee in the Fury camp, as Rob knows what he can bring? What did he bring to the camp? Looks like a stroke of genius in my eyes, Rob.
Sorry, Steve, I'm going to have to get to repeat the question, my friend. Sorry about that, dude.
No problem at all. Sean Anslow is asking about Andy Lee's influence. It looks like a stroke of genius to him to have Andy Lee in the camp. What do you think he brought to the party?
Yeah, well, I heard Andy on Irish radio this week give some interesting insights into the adjustments that they made, and he talked about how Fury hadn't really got great fundamentals, how he's kind of self-taught. You know, he drove himself to become a boxer, this kind of carry on. So they were just working on everything basic, back to basics, jab and right hand, and sitting down on the jab and the right hand. And Andy mentioned in the build-up that he was going back in Fury to get the stoppage, and if he got him in trouble, he was going to go after him. And they were going to make Wilder fight on the back foot. So, yeah, definitely, look, it's great input for him. Delighted for Andy and delighted for Sugar Hill. Two great guys. You know, like the boxing lineage that they come from, the two of them lived in the house with Manny together for bones of 10 years and worked with each other day in, day out. And then for the chance for them to be part of that event is unbelievable. And to change Tyson Fury's style and have him fight a completely different way, completely demoralised Wilder in the fight. And, you know, that moment in the third round where, you know, Wilder is built up talking about at the weigh-in, I'm going to be standing over you again. I'm going to be standing over you again. And Fury looked at him when he was on the deck, like he stood over him, and he just gave him the nod at the end of the third round to be like, I'm standing over you. You know what I mean? So their game plan was absolutely spot on. Made Wilder back. You know, I backed Fury last week. I thought Wilder, like Gabe said, couldn't fight on the back foot. The weight was worrying me, but when I saw him, the shape he was in the first round, it was like I thought, you know, he's not going to be. He's saying what he's going to do. He said he was going to come in heavier. He said he was going to make it a dogfight, and he did that. And to come out, you know, successful, one of the best boxing stories there is. Think about it, like from what happened, the comeback, even in all the AJ hype we had to endure. Fury frozen out, comes back, then doesn't take the immediate rematch with Wilder, and everybody's like, oh, for fuck's sake, what's happening here? Like, makes the fight bigger than it ever could be, and then, you know, comes out with a definitive win based on a change in game plan. So definitely Andy and Sugar Hill have to get some credit. And Freddie Roach might have been onto something as well when you think about it. So maybe they saw something that Wilder was there for the taking, and, you know, they worked on that, and it's,
yeah, Freddie says,
you know, there's nothing more you can say really, like, yeah. And then
I'm sure that
the mental strength that, like, you know, they can make changes to the fundamentals, but I think again, most of the credit has to go to Fury himself as well, because he's mentally so shrewd. Like, he's playing games with Wilder, playing mind games with him the whole time, and you could see it playing out in the fight. Like, how demoralising is it for Wilder when he literally can't find a way to beat him, because if he fights on the back foot, he can't hit him, and if he's standing in front of him, he's actually lying on him, he's wrapping him up, he's backing him up, he's beating him to the body, to the head. What the fuck can I do with this fella? Like, I can't get set to throw the shot. That's my only hope. So all the little mental games that he played with him in the build-up, he lived in his head during the first fight. He let him think in this one that, you know, it was going to be easy. He was just going to find that right hand, and, you know, that he was. Nobody believed that. Fury said it in such a tongue-in-cheek way when he was talking about, you know, I'm going to him, I'm going to knock him out, I'm going straight to him. Wilder didn't believe that. Like, I don't think they didn't prepare for that. So again, just to finish off on the question for Andy's involvement, absolutely brilliant. But, you know, as John Fury said in the build-up as well, a fast horse is easily trained. So credit to all three of them, really.
Yeah, we've lost Adam Smith, man down. Hopefully get him on again next week. Trippy in the chat says, after the first fight, Freddie Roach was criticised the tactics set out by Ben Davison and said Fury should have put more pressure on Wilder to get him on the back foot. Loads of people dismissed Roach, but looks like he was right. Absolutely, I was one of those people that criticised him, so I'm happy to be labelled with the old bollocks talk in there as usual. Yeah, I did criticise Freddie Roach. Andy Swaggy Taggy is also in the chat. He's pumped up on Red Bull and Coke. He wants this answered from you. He said, I know the pod doesn't really go in for this sort of thing, but I was wondering, Andy, if that performance by Fury would warrant a pound-for-pound top 10 ranking.
Absolutely. You can't have a guy going about are people going about saying that he's fighting an opponent who is the biggest hitter since Ernie Shavers, possibly. He just switched his lights off. Was it like 43 wins or 42 with 42 knockouts or whatever it is? You know, whoever he hits, he destroys. But as I say, if you take away the right hand and stuff, he's got no plan B. But definitely, I mean, it's quite hard to kind of rank heavyweights and stuff. You know, it took Klitschko years, and he defended the title, I think it was upwards of something like 17 times or something like that. He almost beat Lewis's record, was something like 23 or whatever it was. But it's hard to rank the guys. I don't think Klitschko will go above like say 3 or 4, whatever it was. But I think off that, you know, he beat him the first time. Okay, it was a draw officially, but he beat him the first time. I think he deserves a top 10 ranking somewhere pound for pound. I know people didn't go in for these rankings. I'm not really big on him myself and stuff, but I think off that, you know, a guy to regain the biggest crown, you know, the biggest title in sport, the heavyweight title, it always holds weight. You know, his new class is the baddest man on the planet. You know, everybody who holds the title is the baddest man on the planet, and that's Tyson Fury. So yeah, I think top 10 rankings definitely in the equation here.
Actually, Andy, just before we move on, you just touched upon a question from Greg Cross, so I'm going to bring you in on this because you're probably the best qualified to deal with it as well. Does this win, says Greg, for Fury, put him in the top 20 to 50 heavyweights of all time, or what does he have to do to cement that?
Well, I think, you know, end of the day, I think we've got to have the Fury fight. The Joshua fight. You know, you've got your biggest domestic rival. You take that out of the equation, then I think you're definitely in the shout. You know, and the thing is as well, even if he goes on the road and beats Joshua like in America or Saudi, whatever it is and stuff, he still goes on the road to do it. So he's beat Klitschko. Conceivably, he's beat Wilder twice on the road, and he beats, you know, Joshua as well. Yeah, I think definitely top 20. You want to break it down and stuff, I need to go and break down the champs and stuff, but definitely top 20. Top 25, considering what the other guys went through, the era that the guys fought in as well, he's going to be just running about the 20 mark and stuff. But as you know, put it this way as well, as okay, people didn't really appreciate or maybe believe the mental health aspect. If you don't believe that, okay, but look at the state he was in physically, and to come back and do what he's done. Okay, I mean, fuck's sake, man, how many of us need to get off the couch these days and put a wee bit of work in just to get a wee bit of weight off? That guy had to take off, what was it? Fucking 8 stone, 9 stone, whatever it was.
10 stone.
10 stone.
And then to win against
147 pounds.
There you go. To go in against the biggest puncher on the planet, so to speak, nullify him, wreck him. It's like Ruiz ransacking AJ. He fucking Fury ransacked Wilder there last night. Again, conceivably the biggest puncher on the planet today, and Fury just goes through him like he was nothing. So I think definitely
never again. Right off the Gypsy King, never again say that he's going to be defeated until he's about 50 years old. Then you might get him.
Bow down.
Yeah. All you suckers that write the Ring magazine.
Yes, I think the aforementioned Ben Faruqi may have joined us on the call. I think that's you there, Ben. Are you hearing me loud and clear?
I certainly am, Steve.
How are you, sir? Still buzzing?
I'm good.
You got Brunner there, though?
No, Brunner's not about. I'm just making my way back into the MGM. Just crossing the road from our hotel back into the MGM now. See what interviews we can get before we head home this evening. But yeah, yesterday.
Right, Ben. No real.
To the MGM. How's your Sunday going?
Rapping Rob Kelly's on the call there, Ben. No real questions for you. You lead the way. Tell us, you know, the overall feelings, the vibe of the night, and that. Obviously, a great win for Tyson.
I think it was just a lot of surprise. Although everybody knows how good Tyson is as a technical fighter, and he's undoubtedly the best technical heavyweight in the world, I don't think anybody, particularly or even in the media, was expecting him to put on such a performance. You know, we know he can box at range, blah, 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 but nobody expected him to do that. I didn't speak to anybody this week who expected him to do that. I think Teofimo Lopez and his dad said he'd stop Wilder, but I don't know. I haven't met anybody this week who was expecting such a masterclass from him. So yeah, the mood was one of shock and awe, really. Like I said to you guys earlier in the chat, afterwards there was a lot of unhappy people. The Charlos were storming through the MGM screaming.
Yes.
I can't remember which one it was, but one of them was like, fuck, just screaming through, walking through the lobby of the MGM. So yeah, there was a lot of unhappy people afterwards, but there was also a lot of British fans who were extremely happy with the result yesterday. So yeah, it was without a doubt the best boxing experience I've ever had.
Ben, I said I had no questions for you, so here's one from Boxing Nut 1984. He's talking about the finish. He said, was Tyson Fury denied a great knockout? He's obviously going about the Mark Breland situation, JD's. Was he denied a great knockout in your opinion?
Probably, but what would it have done to Wilder? You know, look at I was up in the gods, so to speak. I was right. Literally, the wall was behind me, so I was high up. I wasn't ringside. It was only when you come to fights like this, it's only national media who are, and the international press who are ringside.
That's right. Yeah.
So I was up in the gods. So I didn't really get sort of an up close view of what Wilder was looking like at the finish, but. Having watched little clips back, I think it was probably the right thing to do. You don't want to see someone get damaged. Yes, Fury might have been denied an amazing stoppage or whatever, but what would that have done to Deontay? And you don't want to see anyone get severely hurt in this game. It happens too often as it is. So I think it was probably best that the towel went in when it did. Maybe there was a lot of people actually saying yesterday it should have gone in earlier.
Yeah, I see that.
I
see the fifth round was probably the rumor at the time it could have been stopped because he looked like he had nothing left by that point.
Yeah, he looked, to be honest with you, from the second or third round, he just looked all over. After that first knockdown, his legs just looked horrendous. And a lot of people were saying his legs looked bad from the get-go, but I first noticed it after the first knockdown. His legs just weren't there. And I think a lot of people saw that. So yeah, the towel could have gone in earlier, but I'm not upset that Fury didn't get a sort of amazing knockout.
Here, Ben, Glenn McCrory tonight if you can get a chance.
get a what?
If you see Glenn McCrory, interview him immediately. Stop everything. Even if Floyd Mayweather's there, get Glenn McCrory, get his thoughts on last night.
Okay, I will do. But we're going we're just literally walking to the MGM. We're going to go and have something to eat with. I'm with Rob Tebbett, and I'm going to pass it over to him in a minute so he can have a word with you guys and give you his thoughts. And then we're going to go and have some breakfast with Coogan, I think, after you. Then try and get some interviews with Frank Warren and anyone else who we can grab, really. Yeah, I can just see Mike Costello.
Ben, just before you pass him over, obviously quite a few of us on the panel and the listeners have been to Vegas. We're seeing it from this point of view. The tickets are flying out, the hotels have been booked. You're obviously over for AJ Ruiz too in Saudi Arabia as well. How do the two events compare? Obviously Vegas is a completely different animal, but any comparisons, noticeable differences between the two?
Atmosphere.
Yeah, atmosphere was one, definitely. The Saudi culture is vastly different, obviously. So the people there are much more reserved and conservative. So there was no screaming fans and, AJ is going to do this sort of thing in Saudi, really. And everybody was almost confined to not confined to the fight hotel, but the majority of the people who visited were around that fight hotel. And it wasn't anything like this. But that sort of thing will take a long time to change in Saudi. You can't change that culture overnight. But this was a completely different kettle of fish. It was buzzing. By the time you got to Wednesday, Thursday, it just started to get crazy. Friday was intense, and yesterday was the most intense experience I've ever sort of had in boxing, and I've been to God knows how many fights now. So yeah, it was a great experience. I think we'll see many more in Saudi this year. I know the YouTubers are heading over there, or they say they are, with Eddie. Eddie says he's got 3 dates over there. He's told me that off camera before. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Saudi going forward. Yeah, I'm just gonna try and grab Rob Tebbett if he stops moving.
Yeah.
And then you can throw some questions his way. regarding last night.
First question,
Certainly
why
knows what he's talking. Go on.
is Eddie a wanker?
Nobody can answer that question, Andy.
I'll tell you what, mate, he did hit him a quality one with about the hair that day. Remember that one?
Which one?
I think Rob had the hat.
Oh,
the hat
yeah.
on, the beanie.
Rob's had some great interviews.
Rob's
with
like, he says, I've got very greasy hair, hiding some very bald spots and some hair plugs here, bitch.
It's only me and Rob who'll put it to Eddie like that, really, and Rob more so than me. But I'll pass it over to him now, and you guys can
give me a job. I'll
ask
sort it.
him. No worries. One sec.
Hello.
How's it going, Rob? Steve Wellings here. How are you?
Hello, mate. I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad at all. We're not to keep you for too long. Tell us then what your first thoughts were, Rob, when you saw Tyson Fury firing out the blocks, going straight for Deontay Wilder. What were your initial instincts?
He's some fucking man, is my initial instincts. Just didn't really expect it. I mean, I think all of the talk coming into the fight, I think we kind of expected him to maybe hold his feet a little bit more in stages. He did in the first fight, in kind of the 6th, 7th round. He planted his feet, landed a couple of nice straight right hands that seemed to shake Wilder a bit. So I just expected it to be a similar kind of game plan to the first fight, but just holding his feet more in certain instances and maybe being a little bit more aggressive. But I didn't expect him to come out and really just stick it on Wilder, back him up and really beat him up. So it was surprising. I mean, as much as you can be surprised at this point by anything Fury does, because he is such an enigma. But yeah, it's shock, really.
What was the buzz in the arena as things were unfolding? Because I was listening to an American podcast earlier, and one of the guys was saying a big turning point was the shot around the back of the head, as they described it, which sort of really knocked Wilder off and knocked him about, knocked his equilibrium out. I mean, what were the people sort of chatting in and around your seats at the time, how it was going down?
Well, I think even before the fight started, obviously the electricity for a heavyweight fight is always something to kind of behold, but I don't know, it felt like he was always kind of, he had the energy and the crowd and everybody on him, but when he landed I think Wilder landed a right hand in the first round, within the first kind of minute, and then Fury took it, came back with his own shots, and then again continued to push him back. So even then you could kind of see or feel people's excitement at the way that Fury was carrying the fight. And then obviously the first knockdown, which hit him behind the ear, top of the head type thing, punch from the gods. Since then, Wilder never really looked like he recovered, and it was very, very similar to Joshua Ruiz 1, when the knockdown came. Obviously, talk about the Ruiz to Joshua knockdown. The knockdown came, he got up, and then it was like, oh fuck, this is actually gonna happen. He's gonna chin him. He's gonna take him out. And then from there on in, it kind of felt like a matter of time. He was hurting him with pretty much every shot he could hit him with. And Wilder, it's not uncommon for him to kind of look out of sorts at the start of a fight, but he looked gun-shy, looked tentative, and he looked wary of the power, which was it was just unexpected at the time for it to be that emphatic and that dominant. It just got everybody was just kind of mouth agape and just shocked, really, at how dominant Fury was.
Yeah, it must be amazing whenever you've seen something surprising, shocking, unfolding in front of your very eyes, and you can feel that electricity in the crowd, that buzz.
Yeah, I mean, it's for the big heavyweight fights in particular, there's a different type of energy, and you know, this was a huge fight, and it really did feel like a big fight. I was here in November for Canelo Kovalev, obviously Canelo being the biggest star in boxing, etc. But it wasn't anything like this. The excitement and the kind of the energy surrounding the whole thing was just unbelievable. And like Wilder Fury 1 was similar. Joshua Ruiz 1, of course. Joshua Ruiz 2 had a different type of energy because the fight itself never really got off the ground. But yeah, it's almost a little bit surreal sometimes when something like that happens, and you can't help but get a little bit carried away sometimes with the atmosphere and the excitement.
Just a couple of quick ones before we let you go. One of the guys in the chat is asking you, Rob, from an interviewing perspective, how different are these events to the big British ones? It looks a lot harder to try and get interviews.
Yeah, it can be. I'm fortunate in the sense of I've been to Vegas a few times now, so I've kind of not got it down, but I'm a little bit more experienced and kind of Sorry, these guys are trying to find Coogan, who's in here eating.
Balls deep.
Yeah, but they are different. They're different events, and obviously, much like in the UK, really, when you get the Americans come over, we tend to be kind of first port of call for the big interviews because we've got the relationships, whereas over here we don't. So particularly like ESPN guys like Tim Bradley and Andre Ward and stuff like that, they don't have any kind of relationship with us, whereas Radio Raheem, etc., they've got a long-standing relationship with them and they trust them, which is kind of similar to how it goes in the UK. But as far as America, I feel like at the big fights we get not a lot more, but we get looked after really well. Wilder Fury 1, there was like the heavyweight legends event, which was Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield, Ernie Shavers, Michael Spinks, and that's something that we don't really get in the UK. And it was similar with this. We had an event with Lewis and Andre Ward and Tim Bradley, Sean Porter, and that's great from that point of view, and it's not something we're traditionally accustomed to getting in the UK. But it is, again, it goes back to yes, they're all there, but they don't know us, and they have the relationships with your fight hypes and your seconds outs, etc. So yeah, it is different. It is different. It does feel a lot bigger when you're out in America, I must say.
Just closing up then, Rob, before we let you go. Fury, obviously the winner, Wilder the loser. You've got Anthony Joshua in the picture, Alexander Usyk. Where do you think these guys' paths will diverge? Who's going to end up facing who next or in the future?
I think we're going to hear... I think obviously a lot depends in the initial period of time whether or not Wilder activates his rematch clause. I said before the fight that the only way I could see either man not taking the rematch clause if it was a dominant, brutal display, and that's what we got. So I mean, I really, obviously I was expecting, when talking about a brutal, dominant conclusion, I was thinking Wilder. If Wilder chins Fury in a couple of rounds, is there going to be a demand for the rematch? But obviously now Fury is completely dominated Wilder. I can't really see him. And Shelley Finkel and the like around him, they're not stupid. They would have seen the impacts that could potentially have on him. But also, he's got a rematch clause where he could make 2-3 times the amount of money that he can make by having a comeback fight. He's 34. Is he going to really want to go back down and take a couple of fights against your, I know he's fought him twice, but like an Ortiz level type guy at PBC, somebody like a Ruiz who we could fight. But I think we're going to hear a lot of shit in the media regarding an undisputed fight, but I don't see that happening next. I don't see Fury Joshua happening this year, really. I think we'll still see Joshua versus Pulev. I can't imagine that they would essentially have a deal wrapped up and then the stars would have to align ridiculously for that to happen next, Fury and Joshua. So I think we'll still see Joshua Pulev and Joshua Usyk this year. Fury now, I have no idea. If the WBC are not calling the mandatory until February 2021, which is of course Dillian White, so I don't know, maybe they move that forward or they give Fury a voluntary. But he's already spoken about wanting to only have maybe 2 or 3 more fights, and there have to be big fights before he jacks it in. Is he going to want to take a voluntary defence against somebody sort of unappealing? Probably not. He's already said he's not really interested in facing Usyk, who's obviously tied up anyway with the WBO route. So I really don't know. I think it's too soon to say. Once Wilder either confirms or rejects the rematch clause, I think it'll be a little bit easier to gauge. But I'd be amazed if we saw Fury Joshua this year. But having said that, I fucking love it. So I hope it does happen. But yeah, I'm not too sure. I think a lot does depend on Wilder and what he chooses to do. Because if he decides to invoke the rematch clause, then it's happening, and he'll fancy. He can punch. He can knock anybody out on any given night, and it's by far the biggest money fight available to him. So I think it's a little bit too soon to see.
Well said. Thanks for taking the time out, Rob. Also to Ben as well for joining us. We'll let you get back to the bright lights of Las Vegas and enjoy the rest of your stay, guys.
Thanks very much, man. Thanks for having me.
All the best now. Cheers, Ben.
Cheers.
It's the boys there out in Vegas, up to no good, no doubt.
Hey guys.
Who's still with us? Yeah, we're just saying thanks for coming on, Ben. We appreciate you taking the time out to talk to the likes of us. Where's your next big trip then, Ben? Where are they going to take you to next?
Oh, God knows. I don't know. I might come out for Canelo or I heard something about Pacquiao fighting here in June, so maybe that.
You'd know Coogan's about, wouldn't you, when you hear the girls laughing in the background? He's obsessed, isn't he?
Yeah, doing well
obsessed
sexually,
with
isn't
it.
he? Doing well
Yeah,
sexually.
that's what he's after.
Yeah, that's what he's after.
He over there pouting. That's a good one, actually. I just came up with that just there now myself.
That's why he's
Pussy
good at
and
doggy
views
with
on
the bent
Sunday's
legs.
Asylum.
See, that's why he's good at doggy with the bent legs, you know.
Do you want to close us out then, Ben? We don't want to keep you much longer.
Say that again, Steve.
We'll close you out then. We don't want to keep you much longer. I know you've got work to do out there
yeah.
for Boxing News TV. Final thoughts? Any final impressions?
No, I'm just looking forward to see what Tyson does next, to be honest with you. I assume it's going to be the rematch, but when that will be, I don't know. But yeah, I'm just happy that we've got all the belts, really. It's really good for us all in British boxing, you know, regardless of where you're involved in the sport. It's massive for us. And regardless of who you wanted to win last night, British boxing is going to get a big boost from this, so it's good for everybody involved.
And where can everybody find these interviews that you're doing, Ben?
Yeah, just on Boxing News TV. You can find it anywhere on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. All my videos are on there. Boxing News TV.
Lovely stuff.
As well.
Be
All right,
safe
Steve.
out there.
Thanks.
Speak to you soon.
Thanks for having me on,
Thanks,
guys.
Ben.
Speak
See
to
you
soon,
later.
guys. Take
Cheers.
care. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Yeah, see you, Ben.
Big Ben Faruqi there, living it up out in the bright lights of Las Vegas. Yeah, I mean, God, it was whenever I was in Vegas, 2004, and the guy next to me had a pair of binoculars. So when he says they put small-time media back in the gods, they put small-time media back in the gods. I could barely see a bloody thing. I could just about see two of Bernard Hopkins' teeth in the ring there. And Oscar De La Hoya lying on the floor, holding the side of his torso whenever he'd been
took an L
battered.
last night as well, eh?
Who's that?
Hopkins took an L last night as well. He says if Fury beat Wilder, he would have given interviews for a year. So the white man's still fucking torturing Bernard Hopkins, you know.
Yeah, Wilder tried to go there.
still,
And what about Porky's channel, Ozzy? Any updates? Has he closed it down, or what's the deal?
I know Porky's listening live now. So Porky, if you are listening,
Go to Edinburgh.
I mean, he's usually a word, and he said that Porky's Corner would be no more if Tyson Fury did again fight Deontay Wilder. Porky's Corner is still there at the moment. Will it be deleted? There's only Porky Russ who can answer that question.
Doing it for fans. Hey, Porky.
We've been so busy tonight, I haven't even played one single clip yet. I'm going to have to rectify that before the night's out.
Lies.
I haven't. Honestly, I haven't. 1 hour, what are we, 1 hour 38 in, I haven't played one single clip yet. There you go. Trying to be professional tonight. Gabe, are you back with us, Gabe?
Liar.
I know you went running off somewhere to bury a body, shut the trap door. You there, Gabe?
Yeah, I'm back.
Give us an insight on the undercard. I didn't see any of the undercard. I have it downloaded. Charles Martin knocking out Gerald Washington and Emmanuel Navarrete, getting another defence. God knows how many he's up to now. Isaac Lowe winning. Subriel Matias, bit of a surprise one there. I expected him to beat Petros and Nanyan. And also the the big washing line himself, Sebastian Fundora, getting a unanimous decision win over 10 rounds against Daniel Lewis. He was shit, Gabe, apparently, according to Andy. Was he shit?
I don't know. I didn't watch it. I was at my grandma's 90th birthday, and Sebastian was helping me out, texting me whenever the fight was about to get going. So,
Well, Gabe, I can tell you what, mate. If your granny watched that fucking fight last night, she'd have died at 90-year-old, by the way. I'm telling you. But happy birthday to all this. Fucking hell.
what was wrong with it? Just boring or what?
Mate, he doesn't use his advantage. I mean, he's what is he, Steve? 6'6"?
6'7", I think, isn't he?
6'7" welterweight, and he's trying to fight like fucking prime Duran on the inside. Fucking use your distance, man. He's fighting a guy like.
Oh no, Andy.
Like,
sorry.
Oh.
According to BoxRec, he's only 6 foot. He's only 6'5.5", so he's not that tall.
Right, okay. Well, he was taller than the cunt he was fighting last night anyway. Put it that way. Fuck me, man. He's not an inside. Honestly, he should be fighting like Tommy Hearns. That's what I'm going to say.
Well, in his last fight, he did the same thing. He was trying to fight more of an inside fight. And to be honest with you, I don't know how he takes a punch. With his neck being as small as it is, I mean, you'd think that one punch would just completely starch him. And you're right, he doesn't. I noticed in his last couple of fights, I think 4 or 5 fights ago, maybe, was the first time he was on the PBC. and it was actually kind of interesting to watch, and so I kept watching. But over the last few fights, I've noticed that, you know, there is no reason a guy that tall, so that much taller than his opponents, should ever get hit as much as he does. I mean, he takes way too many punches, like you said. Again, I didn't see last night, but I'm assuming from what you said and what Sebastian said that it was pretty much him taking way too much punches. And it reminded me of Paul Williams. There was no reason Paul Williams should have ever been a guy that fought inside. I mean, he could, and he actually did a decent work at it, but there was no reason for it. Like, you're taking all these punches, and there's absolutely no fucking reason. You know, you see a guy like James Toney, and it was a perfect place for him, and he was great at it. And there's some guys that are more often not than are, but you get the point. But with a guy that tall, I don't even know what his arm length is. You would think that if his height is that incredibly large, that his wingspan would be something significantly advantageous. So I can't, for the life of me, figure out why that would be a scenario that anyone would want to be in with him. He must just not have good training. I think that's what it probably boils down to.
Ozzy, a bit closer to home, Curly Watts is talking in the chat there about Brad Foster, former guest of the pod. I'm going to try and get Brad on over the next few weeks, actually. He's only a young guy, but he defended his British and Commonwealth titles with a 6th round retirement victory over Lucian Reid. It wasn't always pretty, but he learnt his lessons from the first fight and just battered Reid, really, and got rid of him. Cody Davis against Umar Sadiq. I thought this would be the pick of the night. It was. I thought Sadiq won about 97-93. Couldn't really make a case for Enzo having Cody winning. Other than that, Willie Hutchinson reminds me a little bit of Scott Cardle, actually, a bit temperamental, trying to get the opponent knocked out, loses his cool a little bit. Not really sure where we're going to see Hutchinson. He might come out looking like a bodybuilder now he's in the Ingle camp. Who knows? Also, Dennis McCann got a win. Not too worried about that. Cody Davis, Umar Sadiq, Brad Foster, Lucian Reid, briefly, Ozzy.
Two good fights, and that's because they're evenly matched. It was the only two good fights on the card, to be honest. The rest was pretty poor. But Sadiq clearly learned from that defeat against Zach Chelly, matured, and completely outboxed Cody Davis. He was a massive price with the bookies, particularly on points as well. So good on anybody who backed that. A real good win. I think it was an official British eliminator at 168 for the super middleweight title. So onwards and upwards for Sadiq. For Cody Davis, I think he needs to go up in weight. This guy boxed at cruiserweight as an amateur, and he's boiling down to like 165 here. That's a hell of a lot of weight to take off. I mean, I saw a picture of him at the amateur. He's unrecognisable. So it's scary how much weight he's taking it off, and it just shows that you may well be able to make the weight, but it can drain you that much. You're a shadow of what fighter you really are, and you may show in the gym. So I wouldn't be shocked if he goes up to back up to light heavyweight or something like that. And the main event, Steve, you said it, you described it perfectly. Brad Foster battered Lucian Reid. It was a one-sided beatdown. It was a rematch, which from the first fight there was arguments that Reid won, and he was unfortunate not to get that result. But yeah, Foster just well and truly battered him. There was comments that he struggled with the weight and just did it wrong against Reid first time round. Well, he clearly did it right the second time round, and it was an emphatic win. Obviously went live on BT Sport and ITV as well, so an interesting little link up there for Queensberry, that if they can start airing, their top 3 or 4 fights which are airing on BT as well, on terrestrial TV, or even if it's just the chief support and the main event, it's a new market, it's a free market that he can expose his fighters to. And look, there's a lure to go there now, because I think anybody fighting on terrestrial television, the numbers you get, I mean, it's shown when Big Mick Hennessy does his shows, and he allegedly turns in decent numbers. ITV is obviously a bigger platform, so it certainly can't be a bad thing.
Dominic, next week, coming up over in America, I don't know if you've got any interest in this, Mikey Garcia going in for the vacant WBC Diamond welterweight title against Jesse Vargas. Also the corpse, possibly, of Roman Gonzalez, looking to be served up to Khalid Jafai. Julio Cesar Martinez against Jay Harris, might be a decent fight, actually. Joseph Parker He's fighting Sean Del Terrell Winters, no idea. The return of Murat Gassiev, Israel Madrimov. Decent fights of interest here on Eddie's card. Anything that takes your fancy, Dominic?
Well, the only thing I would say is on Mikey Garcia. I want to see him back down at light welterweight. I would love the fight. I would really love to see is Josh Taylor against Mikey Garcia. I would love to see. I think that would be an unbelievable fight. I don't think welterweight. I don't think welterweight is the right weight for Mikey Garcia. I mean, even he could probably still make lightweight. So I would like to see him. I would like to see him down. And I know he's got. He's still with them. He's only signed that contract he signed with Eddie Hearn and DAZN. I'm pretty sure that's just a one fight deal.
It's a one-fight deal. Give me your money and I'll be off, Eddie. Thanks very much. I'll leave you hanging.
With a matching offer as well if he goes somewhere else.
Well, I was really happy to hear when I heard that was a one-fight deal. I was sort of relieved because when I first heard he had signed a deal with DAZN and Eddie, I was like, flip, that really kiboshes the chances of a Taylor fight. But I would like to see Garcia, if Taylor can sort of get the Ramirez fight and hopefully beat Ramirez and hold all the belts. I would like to see that fight made. And being a fan of Taylor, I would hope if he could beat Garcia and then move up and maybe fight someone like Crawford, that would be pretty epic. But I would say you can let Ozzy wants to talk about that. The golden the judges who robbed that lad the other night. But I just want to read this. It's a tweet from Dr. Ajeo. It's one of the latest ones, Steve. I think you might have missed this here, but
I've missed it. Yeah, go on. Go on.
Anthony Olufemi Joshua. Listen, I am dead serious. Return to England right now. Enough is enough to your partying, entertainment and socialising in Nigeria. Get back to gym. You have serious boxing tasks ahead so that you will not lose again. You have works to do, chump.
What's wrong with that? Everything he said there is correct.
THD, PhD spoken.
What does THD stand for?
It's theocracy, isn't it? Theological. It's like a religious PhD, isn't it? I think. Yeah.
You sure it's no THC?
That's what I was thinking. DMT.
Fucking DMT, more like
LSD.
Aye.
Yeah, the boys in the chat said they want the doc on. I'm trying to get him on. I'm trying to line him up. He wasn't being lured tonight. We'll try and get him on for a future episode. Ozzy, what about Willy Wonka's golden contract? Lee Wood losing to Jazza Dickens. Tyrone McKenna getting a robbery over Mohamed Moon. Ryan Walsh beating up Tyrone McCullough, who somehow managed to find his way out of the fight in O'Hara Davis. Predictably, I thought Jeff Ofori showed a lot of toughness, a lot of grit. I thought he'd get knocked out in about 2 or 3 rounds. Who's the favourite? Are ESPN viewers looking forward to seeing these guys in a 6-fight deal? That's the question.
Well, we will start with McKenna and Mamouni, and there's one way to describe it, and that is a fucking disgrace, an absolute joke. And Chaz Coakley, Kieran McCann, and Marcus McDonnell should be made to stand up and explain themselves. They were the only 3 people who had Tyrone McKenna winning that fight. I mean, Victor Loughlin's reaction says it all. He had to lift McKenna's hand, and he turned to the MC and mouthed.
He didn't lift his hand, mate. He didn't.
He didn't.
No, because he had such a grip on McKenna's hand. It was McKenna who threw his hand up in the air. Vic got the fucking shock of his life. He's like, he double took.
He turned and said, "Are you sure?" He couldn't believe it. He could not believe it, and as we say, it's absolute bollocks. And then I'm seeing people come out with, "Well, we got the final we wanted." No, we didn't. The final is fighters go in the ring and put everything on the line, not to get job. It's a fucking disgrace, an absolute joke. And honestly, I mean, like you say, you've got to feel for Mamoon and things like that. And the board should be acting on this. The UK, no, people bang on about Germany, going to America. Oh, yeah, you don't want to leave it up to the cards. You cannot leave anything up to the cards in the UK now. I would put the UK as one of the worst areas, the places to come, and then you can get jobbed on the cards. We have seen it all over. And then the excuses that we see. What about Anthony Croller's last fight against that Spaniard? Well, Croller was retiring, it was all right. No, it fucking wasn't at all. It's an absolute joke, and we've seen it yet again, and it's just going to get swept under that big carpet that they've got under, joining all the other shambolic results, and it'll never get mentioned again. And it is a farce, and you've got to feel for somebody, because Mamoon, I feel he beat McKenna, and I think he would beat O'Hara Davis as well quite comfortably. And then, look, he's got a 6-fight deal, which opens up, all sorts of platforms for him. That has been taken away now through 3 inept judges. Chaz Coakley was fucking Irish, which was a joke. Why have we not got a Frenchman on there to even it out then? Marcus McDonald has a history of putting in dodgy cards and things like that. And I don't know a right lot about Kieran McCann, but he clearly can't score a fucking fight as well. Cowboy. So it's an absolute joke. I feel for him. And like I say...
See, back in the day, sorry. See back I'm doing a bit of research into something back in the 50s and stuff, right? And there was a fucking fight that got called by the area council in Scotland about a decision that got rendered. So, get what happened? The fucking thing went to a hearing to see, and what happened? The referee ended up getting downgraded from a A+ to an A-star referee, which meant he couldn't then referee championship fights. And there's no accountability. I mean, back in them days, if a complaint was made, it was investigated, people would be called to account, they'd be told to fucking put their point across, and then they'd make a decision on it. Nowadays, it's just like flim-flam, okay, bad result, we'll move on to the next fight, but another opportunity somewhere down the line. It's a fucking joke.
I never even heard of Chaz Coakley before, has he? I never even heard of him.
He's relatively new to the scene, I think. I think he's been around for the past couple of years. I've certainly seen him, on certain shows and things like that. He's from Cork, in Ireland. So, but look, it happens in every other sport. If officials do wrong, they're demoted, whether it to be a lesser league or they're given, weeks off, months off. If there's fixtures every weekend and things like that. Boxing, you turn in a shocking card, or you put in a dodgy refereeing decision, you're there again the week after at the big fights. Nothing happens.
Lack of officials, though, innit? And subjectivity. How do you define wrong? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there is not a lack of officials, though. They only take onto their panel a select few a year. So, or every couple of years, there's got to be vacancies to become a part of these officials. So there's certainly not, and that's what they should look to do. I'm all for, using the quality and things like that, and having, like a tiered system and things. But I mean, you're getting chumps like this turning in cards, and it's getting worse. It's not getting better, and that's the frustrating thing. Lee Wood, Jazza Dickens, great fight, really, really good. Jazza Dickens again was extremely wide at the bookies in terms of a price. Lee Wood, I favoured him purely on size. Dickens I think he started off at bantamweight, so he's now at feather. But what a performance! Really, really good win for Dickens, and he takes on Ryan Walsh in the final, who I've got a lot of time for, because I feel he's one of those fighters that if anyone deserves, an opportunity at a higher level, it's Ryan Walsh. He's campaigned, at domestic level and cleaned up constantly. He picked Tyrone McCullough, which people felt, was a bit dodgy and things like that. And he didn't have it all his own way, in my opinion, Steve. In the first 3 rounds, I thought he struggled to get to McCullough, but he worked him out, and again he battered him in the end, and put a real good performance on. And I thought McCullough was lucky to see the final bell, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't think he would see the final bell after about 6 or 7.
No, neither do I. I think Walsh, apparently there's a bonus of about £7,500 if
it's not to be sniffed at.
Yeah, so I think what I think Walsh admitted in his interview, basically, the cash was then starting to play on his mind. I'm thinking, right, I've got $7,500 here, and rather than waiting for the shot to come, he was trying to force it, and it naturally it didn't come then. And as for O'Hara Davis, there's levels in boxing, and he was levels above Jeff Ofori, who battled on. Certainly fights for him at this level, in and around domestic level. He's certainly no mug. And as you say, you can lose graciously. That's something he did, and there's going to be opportunities available. So, look, as a whole, you saw 4 good fights because they're relatively, all of a similar standard. It's just a shame that Friday night's card was marred by a truly disgraceful referee. Well, 3 judges' decisions, and as I say, when your own colleague Victor Loughlin is gobsmacked at what has been read out, I think that says it all.
Yeah, we're going close to Bellew of the Weeks. Just excuse me. Yeah, Bellew of the Weeks coming up very shortly. Before we do so, a couple more questions. One for you, Rob, going back to the big one from the weekend. Not Josh Whale, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder. Greg Cross asked this during the week, so obviously he wasn't aware of the winner at the time. He said if Fury wins or if Wilder wins, what do each have to do, in the pod's opinion, to cement their legacy? To be mentioned in the same sentence as the usual suspects, Wilder will have beaten 2 very good heavyweights and a lot of trash. Obviously he didn't get the win. Fury's CV is only slightly better. Wilder has, however, successfully defended the belt 10 plus times, whereas Fury has made no defences. So taking that all into account then, where does Fury go from here, Rob, to sort of cement his legacy? I mean, you can sort of choose what type of level you think he needs to get up to. I asked Andy earlier whether he was going to become top 20, top 50 heavyweight. So, I mean, what is it? Yeah, if he beats Joshua, he's cementing it on any level, isn't he, really, Rob?
Well, I think if he beats Joshua, he's beaten the best of this era. And nobody can kind of argue against that. I don't think anybody's going to say, oh, well, he didn't fight Dillian White, he ran from Dillian White. Or fucking Josh Parker.
Someone will say that.
These characters. You know what I mean? What's in it? Who's out there for him to beat now? Only Joshua.
Frez.
You know what I mean? Frez Aquendo or Saul Farah, if he wants to move up and get that smoke. Although Saul Farah probably be as good as Tom Schwartz. So, as much pelters as I've given Fury, sometimes deservedly. And look, it's even more impressive when you consider the fucking shit that he's been doing over the last 12 months. He's off in the WWF, over in Saudi Arabia, making Christmas singles with Robbie Williams, fucking on everything. Yeah, he's at more stuff than Tony Bellew. And still going to camp. And just to go back to the fight, to the other guy's question about Andy Lee, he said something else that I forgot, or I only just remembered. He said that Fury got caught in the first fight when he wasn't looking at Wilder. So the first knockdown was a grazing left hook when he was looking at the deck. The other one was something similar. He took his eyes off him. So he said he's going to have to keep his eyes on him at all time. And looking back at it, he did. He stared him down the whole time. Like, he only shipped one right hand, I think, for the whole night. So extra credit to the lads for that.
Absolutely. One for you, Ozzy, briefly from last week. I think it was James Windsor who threw this in. Who should Scott Fitzgerald next fight be? Wasn't Fitzgerald penciled in to fight somebody and he's pulled out? What's the crack with Fitzgerald at the moment, Ozzy? Any updates?
I just know that he's no longer fighting on the Manchester card because, in a nutshell, his weight ballooned out of control and he wouldn't be able to get himself in a reasonable shape for this fight.
That's a bad sign, that, by the way.
Is
he back in old ways again, yeah? I mean, do we know?
It seems it looks like that, essentially. He can only get himself up for the big fights that are his level at the moment. So your Fowlers, your Cheesemans and things like that. But you will get found out if you keep doing that. And Lucky applauded Fowler. He said Fowler lives the life. He keeps his weight down. I personally don't want to see Fitzgerald against Fowler again. I don't think we need to. There's only one person who wants to see that, and that's Edward Hearn. And that's because it's cash and it's money making.
Cunt.
I would like to see Fitzgerald progress and possibly. Let me just pull up the 154. I mean, look, if Liam Williams could make 154, I think that'd be a great fight down the line. I'd put Williams above him at the moment. But I'm a big fan of the European route. But there's fights available. Look, you could see Fitzgerald in with Sam Eggington, JJ Metcalf, who's the Commonwealth champion. I think that'd be a great fight as well. You got someone like there's loads of fights available for him. It clearly needs to tick his boxes to get him up for it. Otherwise, he's ballooning up. He's doing all sorts out the gym, which is a shame because he's shown on his night he's a very, very good domestic level fighter and could go on. But when the signs are, you're essentially piling on the weight out the gym because, you've got somebody in against, you're in with just a pretty much a knockover job. and then you can't make the weight because essentially you can't be bothered, essentially it's all going to come down on you in the future, and it could well be against Fowler in the rematch, or it could be against someone like the likes of a Metcalf, Eggington, Wellborn.
Yeah, good luck to Scott Fitzgerald. Hopefully he'll return soon. We shall return now to Bellew of the Weeks, episode 361. Rob's still with us, so is Gabe, so is Ozzy, Dominic, me and Andy. Ready to go through quite a few here. Strap yourselves in, it's going to be a great ride. First nomination from British Boxing Blog for the Independent newspaper for saying that Marvin Hagler was a heavyweight. Bit of a casual moment there from them. A nomination from me for Chris Mannix, talking about the discussion between Max Kellerman and Andre Ward. Between the three of them, they were saying that the ducking of Demetrius Andrade is getting to be cartoonish. Charlo, Derevchenko have nothing scheduled, can make huge paydays. Why is everybody, Andy, ducking Demetrius Andrade? It's getting ridiculous now.
It's because he's
black
emotional
by this. I'm starting to get emotional. But I don't think it's quite come down to that. But he's not doing himself any favours the way he's going rounds with the likes of Luke Keeler. But I mean, it's ridiculous.
Let's remember as well, this is a guy who lost his belt, his world title belt, previously because of inactivity. All right, as I say, people said Fury was boring. And I'm in that camp myself. Fury can he can play at it and stuff like that, but if he comes out in the mood there like last night, it can be exciting to watch. What Fury did there last night, Andrade needs to do the same, because nobody wants to watch him. See, it's just a simple fucking fact of the matter. And to see Max Kellerman and Andre Ward basically mention him in the same breath as like Hagler, that A, that you're black, B, that you're good, and C, that you're a fucking southpaw. I'm sorry, it doesn't wash. Hagler was a monster. He looked to end fights. He could fucking box. So can Andrade, mind you, but he doesn't look to end the fights. He's not exciting enough. He's just shit to watch. That is it.
Yep, Hagler was going through beasts as well, waiting for his opportunity, so the comparison is just pretty ridiculous. Andrade ain't no Hagler, let's get that straight. Sam Dorset was one of many people nominating this guy, Crazy Denizzle, at Slideaway Dreams. It doesn't look quite as silly in the light of Tyson Fury's win, but anyway, Crazy was going in on Deontay Wilder. Anyone with a brain would watch Wilder windmilling and just step out of the way and uppercut him. KO, done. He's a shit fraud with a shit technique, should never have been given a professional licence, can't box. Someone went in on Crazy Denizzle and said, well, you shouldn't really be saying that, what experience have you got? And he said, I do Muay Thai, a lot more difficult. So Crazy Denizzle there, sorting things out. Dr. Joseph J.O.T.H.D. PhD has been mentioned. Ramu, IFL Ramu, Smiggers Titties, friend of the pod, nominated him. Joseph tweeted out, I am dropping this hint, it may sound strange, but it is true. Canelo Alvarez went to Saudi Arabia to watch the bout between AJ and Ruiz. If he will make another leap to heavyweight division, he will injure himself. And then the doctor put himself in front of the famous garage with the gloves on, showing a few moves, how AJ would deal with the likes of Wilder, how Canelo would deal up a heavyweight. Chris Mason has nominated Nathan James, talking about Deontay Wilder. Wilder said, Fee Fi Fo Fum, I can't wait to knock out this gypsy bum. Nathan James said, Little Floyd Mayweather defensive tactics, you will win in 6. Chris Mason nominated him for that. Chris Mason also nominated Sir Jamal Hines, talking about Dillian White. Everyone is definitely avoiding White. It's just been proved. I like AJ, but they put in an offer to him knowing he would reject it, considering they are under the same stable. Ruiz has no right to be in a position where he thinks he is the A-side when he ain't. Wilder is ducking him, as in Dillian White too. So Jamal Hines getting nominated for that. Michael Reedy over on Facebook, Bellew of the Week for Frank Warren and BT Sports for talking about the much anticipated double title clash between Lucian Reed and whoever the fuck he's fighting. Michael not pleased about that one. Dylan Hernandez has been nominated for shitting on the Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury fight. That's by Joe Wall 001. Nomination for the man himself, Andy. Sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout. Hashtag yes. About bail. He's walking around looking like Mr. T with one of those, I don't know what the hell that is, big medallion round his neck, big beard, big pair of glasses, getting booked out the MGM Grand. It's going from worse to worse for old AB.
It certainly is, and I'm just disappointed that Ben never got that chance to kind of put my question to him and stuff. But I did notice the fucking size of him. This is a guy who's been talking recently about coming back down to 135. Well, what stratosphere is he talking about, by the way? Fuck
a stint in prison, maybe, Andy. A bit of prison food, he could get that weight off.
Fuck me, man. He's carrying some timber just now. And the thing is, see when Ben spoke to him as well, he's like, I think Ben asked him about Amir Khan. He's like, yeah, well, I'm really talking about that. It doesn't really get my juices flowing. I need to get something to get myself back in the gym. I'm saying to myself, that is your fucking problem. You're not in the fucking gym unless he's got a fighter range. He does not train. Period. So you think about him fighting twice a year. So say for argument's sake, he takes 12 weeks to fight. So a 12-week camp to fight. So there's 24 weeks a year that he's training in the fucking gym simply to make fucking weight. No wonder he's fucking getting beat off these fucking top end fighters, man. And fucking old man Pacquiao. It's just all he's doing. He's trying to make weight. He's fucking washed. He's fucking done up. He's in debt. He's got baby mamas fucking wanting fucking money off him and stuff. And he's got jewelers chasing him for fucking cash. He's getting chased at the MGM for no paying his bar bill. The man's. AB, speak to me, mate. I'll get you through this. Come on.
Andy reaching out. Yeah, reaching out, Olive Branch for AB. Do get in touch, give us a call. We're like the Samaritans. If he wants to call in on a Sunday night, we'll happily talk him through how to spend his money. Old Adrian Broner, nomination for him.
Shut that soft ass shit up.
Happy Bill Kelly going thumbs down. Chris Blackman has nominated Frank Warren, talking about Jaime Munguia, calling him Mengele after the Auschwitz Angel of Death. A finisher of a whole different calibre. I don't think Jaime Munguia is quite in that league yet.
Depends who you'd rather watch,
Oh dear. Greg Cross has nominated Bob Aaron. God. Bob Aaron believes Jarrell Miller didn't know he was putting PEDs into his system, which is a fair enough defence, I think. Sometimes you're standing there injecting PEDs into your veins. You might not know that you're injecting PEDs into your veins. Bob Aaron might be onto something there. Jarrell Miller's innocent. I think we should start the campaign under.
Jarrell Miller's piss sample and blood samples blew up the fucking lab. That's why he only got a 6-month ban, because he lost the fucking evidence.
Serafina's delighted somewhere now. Best does with Bob Aaron.
Oh yeah, Serafina. Whatever happened to her? Whatever happened to Michael Buffer? Who's running his account? David Farmer tagged me in on this one. Buffer was tweeting out, "Here's the body of a letter I sent to the NSAC almost 3 years ago regarding the behaviour of two prominent fighters before a mega fight in Vegas. The NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, NASCAR, MLS, etc. would never tolerate this behaviour. Yesterday it happened again. It's so disgraceful. Let's grow up, please." So Buffer's raging about the behaviour of Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, while he's happily announcing drugs, cheats, women beaters, alcoholics, all different people of different nature. Who on earth is tweeting from that account? We can only guess. Gavin Stevens has nominated AB. Adrian Broner was just arrested, taken away by the police at the hashtag Wilder Fury 2 weigh-in. Yeah, we've already gone through AB. JJ La Selva has nominated Ricky Ellis. It's a fact, says Ricky, that others love to see successful people fail. He then points to the viewing figures on Anthony Joshua's fights. Trying to say Joshua's been hard done to. Ben Thorns has nominated David Hay. Literally didn't know the rules of scoring boxing with knockdowns and points off. I don't know if anybody saw this on BT. I don't know if you did, Ozzy. David Hay, apparently, was it the round that Wilder got dropped? Hay managed to score it at 10-10. His scoring was all over the shop.
Something about a points deduction, yeah. So he basically said, basically because of the points deduction, Fury won the round, so I'll score it at 10-10. I'm thinking, well, it doesn't really work like that, but David Hay's David Hay. A box of all tricks.
Absolutely. Clarissa Shields has been nominated by Ian over on Twitter. Clarissa tweeted out, "Damn, congrats Tyson Fury and Bronze Bomber, you still the champ and a hell of a fighter." I don't know what he's the champion of. Maybe the WBA could find him a title. I'm sure they could.
Can we throw the Charles Hose in there as well, please?
Germ smell Charlo.
Yeah, Charles Hose or fucking raging there as Ben mentioned they're going to the fucking foyer last night. Fuck!
Charlos. If they showed that much aggression in the ring, who knows where they could be right now, given some of their fights. That Brandon Adams one, that's 12 rounds I'll never get back. Anyway, moving on. Terry Woodfine has thrown in Malik Scott.
Somewhere, aren't they?
They're always having a go at somebody. Maybe they'll come on and have a go at us one week.
And pumped up and charged up. The Charlos.
Too emotional.
Yeah, Terry Woodfine has nominated Malik Scott. Wilder's power is the law in the pre-fight build-up, says Malik, and then takes up the Sam Watson role of hype man during the ring walk. This guy is a former contender turned hype man. I'm not sure if Malik Scott ever was a contender, to be honest. But he certainly has a good time on social media. This is a good one. Matt Dobson has nominated Timothy Bradley. Brian Blake brought this to our attention on Twitter. It was the day that Timothy Bradley became the first human ever to simultaneously wear a bow tie and a necktie. Did anybody see his get-up?
Yeah, I've seen
on
that.
ESPN? He was wearing a bow tie.
He's a banger,
and
man.
the tie. Fuck.
Bradley's off the chain, man. Did you see the video with him and Broner at the?
Did you see him try to do the tactics talk like fucking Teddy Atlas? He spent 2 minutes time with Teddy Atlas, man. That guy's got brain damage, by the way. I'm convinced of it.
Man, he came up, he rubbed up behind him, and Broner was like not having it, and then he was like, "Keep hitting me, Tim. Like, you know, what are you doing?" He was like, he started asking him random questions about Bud Crawford versus Spence, and then telling him that he could do it, and I wish I had the same talent as you, and all. It was cringeworthy. Like, I don't know what's going on with Bradley, man. Absolute banger.
He's fucking lost the plot, that one.
Do you think it's since he hooked up with Atlas, he's tried to become a character, hasn't he? Like, controversial. Do you remember when he did that thing at the camera? Like, listen to me, everybody. No, he's tried to become, like, confrontational. A bit of character, yeah.
I forget what fucking comment it was or what moment it was, but I remember Ward's looking
big
up.
Boy pants on. Remember?
Ward looking
Put
up
your
and
big
says,
boy pants on.
"You are going off a reservation and I ain't helping you here, pal. You're on your own here." Even Testator's like that.
Yeah.
Dude, you fucking serious? CTE definitely.
Big boy pants. Put on your big boy pants.
We are firemen.
Yeah. I think it's the Teddy Atlas effect, I do personally. I think that's what's happened to him.
Yeah.
Terry Woodfine, massive belly of the week. For all the Matchroom fanboys who were devastated at the way Fury crushed Wilder, still running around saying AJ is number one because he has more belts, so fuck off. Yeah, shout out for that Ricky Spears, who was trying during the week to say that AJ Ruiz 2 was a bigger fight, and then he started going down to commercial, accountancy Twitter were getting involved, commercial revenue was bigger, so, you know, but I mean, the rematch between Wilder and Fury was bigger on every level as far as I'm concerned. Forget about Dr. Joseph J.O. Forget about Dr. Joseph J.O. THD PhD. We have Francis Obita on the case here. Ian McKenzie has nominated him. Obita says, "Who is as disappointed in Deontay Wilder as I am right now? He allowed that fat gypsy to look supreme. What a mediocre standard of a boxing match," says Mr. Obita, who's not happy by the way things transpired. Did anybody see this? The 30th Century Man nominated it from DAZN. They put up their own little banter bingo. Like, what are they going to talk about? It was embarrassing. I mean, usually that type of stuff can be funny, but it just looked bitter, didn't it? And a bit embarrassing, I thought.
They actually put the fucking picture of Joshua and Fury up like 3 minutes after the fucking fight ended there last night. I mean, like, and as I say, Fury was angry with people who were talking about that Joshua fight there last night, and I can see his point, because he didn't want to know anything about him 2 years ago. You know, he was shit, he was washed, he was fat, he was unexciting, he couldn't knock people out, he was pillar puncher. Look at him now, man. He's dominated America there. He's in the hearts and minds of people. And to me, he's just fucking put himself right in the window to say, look, I want 60-40. Simple as, I'm telling you. He's got the ESPN. If these pay-per-view numbers come back and they're massive, I hate to fucking know what these talks are going to be like for this Joshua fight, but it's going to drag on for months. As guys are saying, this isn't going to happen this year.
No intention of fighting Fury.
No
intention.
It's like David
That's Eddie surely going to get one for that. Let's do it now in the summer.
Yeah.
But Pulev is done. Get the fuck out of here, man. No way he wants to make this fight now. No way.
Rob has spoken. Also, Podrick O'Murchu has spoken on Twitter, been nominated by Blue Eyed Boy. Podrick said, "I'm happy that the Gypsy King won, but both of them are terrible boxers. Fury only won because of his height and weight advantage, and Wilder is a one-trick pony. That weight division is devoid of any decent fighters that have that height and weight. The best technical fighter is Ruiz," says Mr. O'Murchu. Stick to the day job. It ain't boxing. Prime Type Myson, Belly of the Week for JD's. Saying that Wilder had no legs because his outfit may have been too heavy. Give Fury his credit, for fuck's sake. Had no legs because he took a sustained beating for 7 rounds. Type Myson, that's Bolo Young. Raging. Shout out to Eddie thinking.
Could be Helmet of the Week.
Helmet Eye, Weapon of the Week.
Yeah. Where's he going with that? The fucking Transformers outfit. Well, it really didn't work backstage. We had to make some adjustments with the stage crew, and really affected Deontay's legs, truthfully, in the fight, and that's what happened. The lasers were just too much. What the fuck is he talking about?
Madness on the ring walks. Long gone are the days when Jorge Arce came out on a horse with a Stetson and a freaking gun in a holster. Those are the good times. Yeah, someone has been nominated by Editing King. Shout out to him. Haven't heard from him in a while. Hope he's well. Going out, leaving the arena last night, shouting. Assaulted Deontay Wilder fan was leaving the arena, shouting out that the Fury room was racism. According to this gentleman, Editing King has nominated him for that. Again, forget about Mr. Ajayo, Dr. Ajayo, THD, PhD. We have Ayatunde Ogunrinde, MD. So he's getting in there against the Ajayo and have an MD here. AJ, you didn't want AJ smoke, says Ogunrinde. You could have fought for your WBO and WBA belts. He's talking to Fury, by the way. First, before the WBC, but you chose the easy one. And Wilder also thought you were done, but he was wrong. So Fury didn't want the AJ smoke, according to Ogunrinde, MD. He instead went for Wilder, which was the easier fight. So Mr. Ayatunde has spoken there. Toby again has nominated David Haye for scoring.
I'm going to have an Eddie by the end of next year. So if I'm going off on the rails, like some people that we know with D's in their name or in their titles, just make sure and you let me fucking know.
So you're going to have an ND, Gabe? What's that?
Ed D.
Oh, Ed D, right.
Educational
Diploma
doctor.
of Education. Right, okay, fair enough.
The prophet has spoken.
There you go, Gabe Lewis. That's why he's leading us all for the promised land. Toby, coming up to the final few here, has nominated David Haye for his scoring. Gabe, just been speaking there. Gabe has nominated Abner Mares. Abner tweeted out just before the fight, on my way to Mexico, let me know what round Wilder KOs Tyson Fury. Been trying to ring him ever since, he ain't answering. Old Abner. Jason Wall, talking about the busted eardrum, yeah, we've already covered that. Holt has nominated Soul Brothers. Tyson Fury didn't take Wilder down or out. Fury can't take the credit. He's a gypsy clown. Wilder's body is what beat Wilder, because something was definitely very wrong. Fury the clown doesn't have power. His punches just added up and added insult to injury. # Bomb Squad. Jasper has nominated Scott Duncan for talking about UCAD testing. Why doesn't Wilder get tested by UCAD and see what they find? Clearly they do something. VADA doesn't consider testing White 2 days after UCAD and found nothing, blah blah blah. Somebody nominated earlier, this guy who's done, I'm going to have to put it up on Facebook, it's a painting he's trying to sell of some boxers. You have to see it to believe, there's no point in me trying to describe it to you. Tom Myers has nominated TBE Fury for saying that Fury is already better than Ali ever was. He's had no losses for a start, says TBE Fury. Another nomination for the necktie. Just flying through them here. And also, quite a few people have nominated this one. This could be the best, saving the best for last, Andy. Mike Lewis over on LinkedIn. Description: I make you money from your website, search engine specialist, SEO and PPC. No PBC, it's PPC. Mike Lewis is taking the credit for Tyson Fury's win. There's a picture of Mike alongside the Gypsy King. About 3 years ago, says Mike, I took Tyson to one side and I said, Tyson, your fist is the same size as my head. Stop wasting your talent and you will become world champion again. 3 years later, and 10 stone lighter, he is about to do the business. He promised to thank me in his post-match interview, but the truth is, I need no thanks. The smile on his face says it all. Hashtag blessed to be a blessing. Hashtag inspiring. Hashtag Tyson Fury. Hashtag Mike Lewis on LinkedIn.
Hashtag drugs don't work. Jesus Christ.
The man, the myth, Mike Lewis.
The elephant runner. I've got a load here, so I'll fire through, mate. So
Go on,
I don't know, like you had the pre-fight build-up, Matt. You had the guys making their own videos and stuff, and Wilder makes a comment that it only takes one punch. You're fucking right, Wilder. Look at that third round. It only took the one punch. Shout out to Danny Ridgway for putting up the pictures. Fury landed a jab in the right hand and it made Deontay Wilder look like a fucking guy for the Family Guy sketch. So I really like that one. The Deontay Wilder fan walking out of the MGM last night shouting that was about the result. He was raging about it and he blamed it all on, you guessed it, racism. It was apparently a racist decision later last night.
He was white, wasn't he? He was white as well, the banger. This is racist, man.
Wasn't Matthew J. Hunter, was it?
The fucking Ted Bundy of fucking boxing, that cunt. Errol Spence apparently sat behind Bob Arum there last night, and Francisco Salazar asked the question. Errol Spence is sitting right behind Bob Arum at the MGM tonight. I wonder if Errol will tap Bob on the shoulder and say, "Hey Bob, let's do it. I want Terence Crawford later this year." To which Kenny Keefe of the boxing rant responds, "More likely he asks for an edible." To which I respond, "Nah, Spence wants all the smoke. He's asking for the blunts." So I like that one. Yeah. Michael Buffer. Did you mention that one, Steve? About Michael Buffer's rant there last night?
Yeah,
you seen him raging about. Aye, so basically, this is a guy who he's got no problem kind of like announcing people who've been done for like criminal prosecutions, pot for drugs, going to Saudi Arabia with the horrendous fucking human rights that they've got over there and stuff like that, So people who've done domestic abuse cases and that, but let's just fucking moan about some swearing and some pushing at a fucking press conference, you sanctimonious wanker, Eddie. Did anybody catch Wilder and Fury sitting before the weigh-in and the cameras were on both sets of people, and Wilder's kind of cuddling at his wife and Fury's blowing kisses and he's fucking smuggling into his brother and fucking Wilder's giving the finger back and that. I like that. There was a wee bit of banter going back and forward there. Broner getting arrested obviously as well. Deontay Wilder asking, he was getting spoken off the camel toe actually. He was speaking to the camel toe and he asked Dillian White, "Where that B sample at, bitch? Where that B sample at?" Chris Mason sent one in, Steve. I don't know if you mentioned that one as well. Was it Sir Jamal Hines? Did you get that one?
Yeah, I read that one out, Andy.
You got that one, yeah. Asian Boxing put on this one for the Panamanians. Francisco Pantera against Davis Bochero will be for the interim Panamanian lightweight title. Fuck that shit.
Fucking hell. Bochero lost to Martin Ward.
Yeah, interim title. B-Hop saying if Fury beats Wilder, I won't talk in an interview for a year. So Hopkins took another beating off a white boy there last night. So let's see if he keeps his promises. And
he's never keeping our promise.
He's never
put a camera in front of B-Hop. Come on.
Can I do a Nostradamus prediction here? Actually, do a Gabe Lewis did his prediction there last week. I'm going to predict that Eddie Hearn's going to come out. So I'm going to predict for next week. Eddie Hearn's going to get nominated next week for Belly of the Week for saying, and he'll do a 2-hour interview with IFL, I think, maybe the middle half of next week, and he'll say that he'll talk about percentages for a Fury Joshua match and how the fight can happen in the UK. Okay, I'm going to say that straight away, and you talk so much bollocks that in the end it can't help but put him up for Belly of the Week. So I'm going to put Eddie in there for next week as well.
Well, on that subject, Gazapalooza, who was on the call earlier, sent one in from Sam Jones. He said, "The dream is Fury AJ at Wembley, but it's just not going to happen. I just hope it happens at a stadium in Saudi Arabia so it can fit as many Brits in as possible."
Fuck's sake, man.
I
mean, can you imagine the Fury squad in fucking Saudi Arabia? Can you honestly imagine that shit? Can you imagine what's going to happen there? Fucking hell. You know, there's a public beheading going to happen in the Fury camp. Not a fucking chance, man. They're going to be laying siege to that place. Fucking hell.
Talking of people who promise to do things if a certain result happens, like B-Hop and Porky, I think listener Dale Nichols, a friend of Smido, said something about shaving his hair off if is it if Fury won? I think I'll have to find the tweet out. We'll have to hold these people accountable. At least I own my shit, I make bad predictions every week, but there's a lot of that going on at the moment. I'll do X if so and so happens, so we'll have to hold them accountable. Any more nominations, Andy? Is that all the ones you've got?
Right, you go, fire away.
Roberto, any from you?
No, not really. Eddie for his shit before the fight when he said, what did he say? Oh, I've heard, definitely, I'm changing my mind. I'm going for Wilder. I've heard from stories coming from Fury's camp. he's not winning this fight, or stuff from the inside kind of alluding to some kind of inside information that he had, but didn't work, baby.
The mind games backfired. As it says, remember Wilder as well was talking about gypsy curses, and that he was talking to Joe Rogan, so even he's been mentally spooked by Fury.
Oh, he did a job on him. Even in this one, when Wilder's in the way in, and he's like, "You don't believe the words you're saying. I'm going to knock you out." And he's just looking at him going, and he said, he wore the sunglasses because he's nervous. He wore those sunglasses because he's nervous. Wilder he's able to spook Wilder differently, like completely just manipulated him, and just that game plan when he put it on him, a big part of Wilder mentally folded. Like, even though he hung in there in the fight, he went back to straight lines. I thought I don't know if the corner told him tried to make any adjustments last night at all. Like, I didn't really hear it. I don't know what Breland's doing with him. He doesn't seem to be the main voice in the corner for some reason, which is odd, but considering who the two of them are in there. But I think there's going to be a change in personnel there. Sorry if we're going off on a tangent there, actually, by the way.
That's right, Rob. We love a good tangent here. Take Ames is sending me another nomination on WhatsApp. I know Chukwu sent me a load as well, but I've had that many in. Gabe, you're the Oracle this week. Any nominations from you?
Just an update on stupid Abner Maris. He sent out another tweet a bit ago that congratulated Fury for winning and saying how he was wrong. Never expected that to happen. So just an update to my earlier BOTW.
One though as well, forgot AB again. Biggest fight of the year, all eyes on Vegas, and this fucking banger gets arrested the fucking night before the fight. Absolute car crash. Week in, week out.
I would own Twitter. I would own Twitter, by the way, if Ben and Mash got a chance to speak to him. Seriously, man, honestly, I had all the questions set for him, by the way, but
all said, and then he gets thrown in the slammer. You can't even rely on him for a shout out.
Honestly,
week in, week out, he's getting arrested. Like, and then he's out then on Twitter. Oh, I'm back. What's cracking in Vegas tonight? Your head on the end of a baton if you keep going the way you're going. What the fuck, like?
Madman. Ames has sent me one. They're re-digging up the old tweets. Anthony Joshua telling Tyson Fury to get fit, you fat fuck, back in November the 9th, 2017. Hey today, Revenge of the Fatties.
Yeah, by the way, he might love to regret that tweet, by the way, I'm telling you.
He might well do. Yes, we might all live to regret tweets, Ozzy. You might well be living to regret tweets that you've made, but are there any nominations for Bellew of the Week?
No, not for me. The couple of ones I was going to say have already been mentioned.
But Ozzy, you did mention that the aforementioned Patera-Boshiero WBA interim title fight is being promoted by one and only
Mr. Edward
Hearn.
Using those links to the Panamanians yet again, creating titles. So
interim title, shall we say? Interim. Just to re-emphasise. Fucking corrupt bastards.
I'm sure they made a statement 12 months ago saying they wanted to reduce the amount of titles.
They did.
12
months ago. That's fucking optimistic, mate. It was fucking less. It was 2 years ago. And I says, I did an article way back. I'm talking 2014, and I estimated then it was like something like 64% of belts on offer in boxing between all four organisations belong to the Panamanians. 64%, man. Come on, think about it. You've only got 19 divisions.
Is this going to mean either? Is this going to mean Patera or Boshiero be mandatory to Gervonta Davis?
Are they no lightweights? Are they no lightweights? No.
Yeah, Davis won the WBA lightweight, didn't he?
Against Gamboa.
Yeah. Patera and Boshiero at lightweight.
Yeah, I can't see him going up that far in levels. I mean, fuck, Davis would crucify the likes of Boshiero.
Public executions, Andy, you mentioned earlier.
Oh my fucking god, man, he would crucify him. Pantera, who I think is highly ranked, I think. I would give him a wee bit more of a chance, I think, but Bosiero's like, what is Boshiero must be 40 now. He must be.
And he's shit as well, which is a problem.
38.
Yeah, he's European level standard, like. And if Francisco Patera's coming, he was the one that beat Ritson, isn't it?
Correct.
Aye, so and Ritson was getting a lot of hype in that, but at the same time, I think, nah. So European level fight that. Fucking Davis would crucify both of them. Sorry.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, so they've won the interim for the title that Davis won,
you've got
and he also
Mendy as
holds.
well,
So what do they
gold
need the interim for?
So you're gonna have 4 champions at light, but you're gonna have Lomachenko as the main man. You've got Davis as the world champion. You've got Ivan Mendy as a gold champion. Then we're gonna have a fucking inter-titleist. 4 champions.
Arseholes. You'd love to go in the office, wouldn't you, and just.
Well, they've got 4 at junior welterweight. They've got Josh Taylor, Mario Barrios, Yves Uccelli Jr., and they've got Alberto Puglio. So you've got 4 title holders. No. We'll move on. Sorry, Steve.
No, you're fine. Yeah. Producer screaming in my ear to move on. Dominic, any nominations from you?
Only what I was going to say, Rob mentioned that about Eddie, what Eddie said during the week, that Tyson's are I've got some information from inside Fury's camp, and I've therefore changed my prediction. And the only thing I wanted to say about it was I thought Fury's response to it was just completely masterful. He was asked about it, and he just smiled straight down the camera, and he just pointed his finger and he said, "Eddie and AJ, this could have been you sitting here. You had the chance twice, and you just turned it down." And so Eddie was it's just Eddie trying to flip in Eddie's idea, thinking he was smart, thinking he could exert some sort of flipping pressure and all this sort of crap. It's just typical Eddie nonsense.
Well, I asked Edward. I asked him, could he tell us the issues that he'd heard about in the Fury camp? Because we'd all love to know. And sadly, he has failed to meet the Asylum podcast deadline of going live. So maybe
AJ wants all the smoke. He wants all the smoke. He wants all the belts. This new fucking fandango fucking comments we're getting. He wants all the smoke. Fucking wanker. Boxing porn next week. Apparently, this card he's putting on next week as well. The fucking hairline, fucking plug wearing twat.
Yusuf Mack.
Fucking hell.
You know what? You think about it. I saw a few interviews with Adam Smith and Sky. I just sensed in some of their body language that I think they're crestfallen because they really wanted the AJ Wilder fight. They saw that AJ Wilder
Late edition.
They saw it as go ahead, Andy, go ahead.
Adam Smith, 45 minutes after the fight, and he's saying his phone has been red hot to get this Fury fight made against Joshua.
Oh, yeah.
45 minutes after the fight, I'm telling you, man, I bet no cunt even fucking phoned you. Eddie Hannibal, I'll do a talking funny, you wanker.
I bet the phone is red hot.
Operation U-Tree.
Well, the sweet.
I was just going to say, his phone is red hot, yeah.
Get that vibrator out, baby.
Well, the Sweeney will be coming after him as...
Rumple fucking Stiltskin.
You fucking slag.
Operation
Right, sorry boys, where are we? Had you finished, Dominic?
That's me, Steve.
That's you. Right, where the hell are we? We're getting down to about the last 20 minutes or so of the Mixler. This is all they're going to let us have.
Operation U-Tree.
Do it for fans.
Right, yes. Rob, who are you going for this week? Nominations are out the way. Who are you nominating, Rob? Belly of the week, Rob, who are you going for?
A toss up between DAZN for that fucking graphic. I bet you they have one drawn of Wilder as well, that throw in the fucking scrap heap, ready to go. That was a cheap move. That was in
the recycle bin.
Eddie just for being a dick. You know what I mean? Oh, Teddy Atlas actually. Sorry, Teddy Atlas gave a go. Sorry, Steve, late one. Teddy Atlas said, gave a big epic prediction, and he compared Deontay Wilder, Fury to Jersey Joe Walcott, Rocky Marciano to where Marciano was the unfavored guy, and Walcott later said he did everything that he could in the first fight and he still couldn't win, and that's how this fight will play out for Tyson Fury. So I think it played out in a completely opposite way that Teddy Atlas predicted. So a bad week for him and Tim Bradley.
Exactly, bad week for trading leather boxing, who's just jumped in. Better late than never. No sign of Hamed in the chat, actually.
Let's get out of here, Hamed.
Haven't seen Hamed. Gabe Lewis is still with us though, thankfully. fell asleep. Chukwu's fell asleep. He's disappeared off somewhere. Gabe, No, you've done nominations, Gabe. Who are you going for this week?
About Bale. Adrian
Broner?
You'll have to go, Hamid.
And everyone.
Ozzy, I'm going. Oh. Sorry, Gabe, go ahead.
I said, and anyone else that picked Wilder.
Anyone else that picked Wilder? Ozzy, I'm going for Mr. LinkedIn, Mike Lewis. Forget about Gabe, it's all about Mike Lewis here, friend, psychologist of the stars.
He was good too, yeah.
Yeah, that correct. That fat maggot deserves his award because he can fuck off. Got a picture with him at one of these meet and greets, and now claims to have had the heart-to-heart which convinced Tyson Fury, a world level boxer, to get back in the ring because he had a fight with a pay-per-click specialist. Yeah, good one. Pillock. So yeah, he Mr. LinkedIn gets my vote.
Billy would wait for me as well for pulling a Chuck Woo and actually falling asleep.
Yeah, I tried my best to wake you up to as well.
Rob fell asleep. We're going to have to cut that one for next week, Rob. I fell asleep.
Chuck Woo.
Yeah, no, I fucking...
PCP's a bitch, isn't
hit the dick.
Like Wilder did the
Oh, yeah, we phoned you. Yeah. Yeah, we phoned you. Fight starts then, fuck Rob.
I phoned you, never even answered.
Oh, Chuck Woo's woken up, he's here.
Sent me a voice note.
I did actually, it was a voice note. I was trying, bossing me. I was looking through slanty eyes trying to find your fucking phone number. I can't phone this guy.
I know.
What the fuck is happening here?
Robbie goes, then he goes again. Robbie awake.
Ahmed turned up on another podcast last night, apparently.
Hamid's a wee.
That's why we haven't seen him. We haven't seen him.
Just get out of here, Hamid.
And Jason's on the PC.
Belly with a week for me as well because I had that Paddy Power account open with the TKO at 8-1, and I was just about to do it. I was like, "Oh fuck!" I put the laptop down and went to sleep.
I was so close to pitting the 8.5 rounds there last night, over 8.5 rounds at the bookies yesterday, and I shot out it. And I put my money on Bologna. I beat fucking Udinese, and they fucking drew the wankers. So, this is well. I mean, I'd lost my money.
I'm not a big bettor anyway, but yeah, well, I'm not a big bettor, but I think if I'm invested in the fight in any way, kind of like it just ruins it if I bet on it. Like,
yeah. Boys, have you got on to the bit that we usually do after we finish off? I haven't cut us off yet.
No, normally we do a bit of SPL talk. It's a good time of the week for that, Andy, isn't it?
Rob's usually like, "Hey, I've got a story to tell you." So I couldn't tell you earlier.
This would be that moment. This would be that moment.
Right, yes, Dominic, who have you got? 2 for Mike Lewis, 1 for Eduardo. Can't remember who Gabe went for. Go on, Dominic.
Buffer.
Ooh, Buffer. Stealth one for Buffer there. Right, so we've got 1 for Buffer. We've got 1 for Eddie from Rob. Who'd you go for again, Gabe? I've lost all track of time here.
Broner?
Yes.
Right, Broner. Me and Ozzy went for Mike Lewis. Excuse me. Andy, you haven't picked yet, have you?
No, but you can know who I'm voting for at least.
Go on.
About Bale. About Bale, baby.
You can't go for him again.
Of course I can. Of course I can. I can do what the fuck I want.
Your campaign against Broner is worse than mine against Michael Benson.
Yeah, but listen,
we're starting to think you might not like Broner, Andy.
I've said it with Broner for years, man. And to be honest, I had a chance to outreach to him, but he got arrested because he didn't pay his bar bill.
He got arrested last night, didn't he? Yeah, I forgot about that.
Fucking unbelievable.
Banger, man.
One shout out to Kubrat Pulev.
Yeah, deported.
He got deported when he got to the into the airport. Yeah, probably
Brexit, baby.
Deported back to Bulgaria.
Oh, fucking yes.
Jenny Sushi just peeled open the curtains.
Look, my cunt.
I bet she did. That's why you go in business class.
Stop for Bob
yeah, let's
Arum's
cut
gonna
value of the
send you on
week.
a course.
An education course. Congratulations, Bellew, Adrian Broner and Michael Lewis are the joint Bellew of the Week winners for episode 361. Congratulations to both of you. Nice little cut there for the Bellew of the Week episode, which usually drops about Tuesday. Because I want to bring in the main man, better late than never. He always comes late. Dave Lowback. You there, Dave?
I'm done here.
Slamming the lamb there like a fiend. Always comes late.
Good man, Dave. Great to have you on. Where were you?
Yeah. As long as she comes, then I can come.
First or second? I just fake it. Push her inside her.
Where have you,
So, good fight last night. Or rather, a good performance. I've done anal.
Sorry, Dave, when you go.
Come
be
on,
serious.
Dave. Yeah, be safe.
But what are you talking about now? I just got on.
Fake orgasm.
Good question.
Are you drunk, Dave?
Absolute bollocks, mostly. Get us back on track, Dave. You're the voice of reason.
You're a hater.
Bean!
Bean! Flicker bean.
I fell asleep. No, it was. Well, I think Donald was. I don't know if you already covered this, but Donald was watching at a movie theater, and I think he was totally drunk. It was National Margarita Day yesterday, and Donald was soaking him in because he scored the first 2 rounds for Fury. I mean, for
Wilder.
For Wilder.
Wilder.
For Wilder.
Bad judging runs in the family, though, Dave. You got to let him off. He's from bad stock.
That paid for his wedding, though. Fucking remember that.
I actually think that Donald Trella Senior is a fine judge. Actually, generally speaking,
Fine judge who wants to fucking train Judge Judy.
Judge Judy, settle down now. You're gonna get the listeners all riled up and horny. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, the fight. Yeah, it went about as the great Emmanuel Stewart would say, went exactly as I expected it to go. Well, not exactly though. I didn't think Fury was gonna be as harsh so early. I thought he was gonna work into it a little bit more. But he was all business right from the beginning. Didn't see. Well, I guess once he had it pretty much in the bag, and Wilder was basically finished. He did the little tongue thing. Some people said he was trying to taste the blood. I wasn't sure about that. I thought he might have just been.
Oh yeah, Tessitore for that. We completely forgot that. What was he on about there?
Before the fight, he wants to taste blood. I think that's what he was doing there, Andre.
That's shite. That was pure. But I even tweeted about that by me. See that beard? Is it stitched on like fucking Spencer fucking Oliver's hairdo?
Oh, like Conor Ben's.
And Conor Ben's one. He shaved it off though recently. The fucking idiot.
Well, it was an interesting comment, but yeah, I thought Fury was just kind of mocking, or not necessarily mocking, but like celebrating to the crowd, playing to the crowd, sticking his tongue out like the nut he is. But other than that, like in the first fight, we saw him basically clowning most of the fight, hands behind his back, mugging at Wilder, dancing around. Even after he got dropped heavily in the 12th round, he did some hands behind the back shenanigans. In this fight, I didn't see it. He was focused 100%. He knew what he was going to do. He was in there to hurt and do damage. The game plan worked pretty much perfectly. There were some did you do Bellew of the Weeks yet or no?
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
There was a guy.
There
was a guy who said, I assume you talked about that guy screaming, "Oh, it's racist! It's racist!" walking down the street. There was some guy who tweeted about clearly the powers that be couldn't have a black champion during Black History Month or something, so they paid Kenny Bayless to do an early stoppage. His corner threw in the towel. I mean, it was, and justifiably so. It was getting unpleasant to watch. I can appreciate that Wilder wanted to go out in a shield, and I have no doubt that he would have. Like we said last week, he's very hard to deter, and he's a tough guy, and he didn't disgrace himself last night. He just got his ass beat. And I thought it was more to the good of Fury than to the denigration of Wilder, and that's a good fight when somebody's stock goes up. And excellent execution of a game plan that I recommended. So I'm sure Sugar Hill was listening last week and totally changed camp.
Dave, thank you. As much as I'd like to hear more from you, Mixler's about to fuck us off, so we're going to have to finish up now. One of the guys in the chat threw Gareth A. Davis in for Bellew of the Week. I forgot about him, but again, we're going to have to move on. And also, yeah, by the way, it's all good fun. Donnie knows the crack. We're only messing. Like, we're not.
No, we're not. But
don't
be
mean to
serious
offend
here.
anybody.
Fuck him. Fuck Donnie, man. Fucking counsellor. Sorry.
No, I think we went too far, but
Too busy being a counsellor.
Exactly. I mean, again, it just proves how much a lying politician that he is. I'll be on this week. I'll be on this week. Where is it? Fucking where is it? Bum.
Exchanging brown envelopes.
Yeah,
No
exactly.
doubt.
Aye.
He's doing anal.
exchanging, yeah.
He'll win Boca Raton and stuff like that with his missus and stuff. Getting their trap
In the movie theatre.
Yeah.
What?
7-year
What's he
anal.
watching in the movie theatre?
7-year anal. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, he'll be slamming her up the shitter again, won't he?
Slamming a llama again. That's what.
Right. Thanks very much, everybody. I think we'll leave it there.
One in the pink, one in the stink.
Fuck Dominic.
Dominic, you're bringing the pod down here. I'm not having you on again. That type of disgusting talk.
We got Dom on. Hi, Dom.
The Brown Exchange.
Right, thanks everybody who's been on tonight. Dave the Hater Lowback coming in late. Dominic was on with us all the way along. Gazapalooza jumped on the call. Ozzy Smith, Adam Smith, I think he was here at some point as well. Gabe Lewis, Andy Patterson, Rob Kelly. Yeah, Gabe the Prophet Lewis. Props to you, Gabe. Anybody I've missed? Who cares? I've been Steve Wellings. Catch you all again. Same time, same place next week. Bye.
Bane.